Chapter 2356. The long swords fell one after another, causing the light around General Xian Ying to explode. The battle between the two was earth-shattering. A terrifying light enveloped the entire sky. Damn it, how is that possible? How can his attack be so powerful? General Xian Ying collided with his opponent. His hands went numb and the blood in his body churned. He felt as if he had collided with 100,000 mountains. It was extremely sturdy, and the force made him have the urge to vomit blood. As expected, General Xian Ying vomited blood and flew backward. Under the power of the Dragon Sword Soul, he kept retreating. General Xian Ying was injured. Heavens! How is that possible? The people in the distance were all stunned when they saw that. How powerful is that kid to be able to injure General Xian Ying? More importantly, wasn't he already on the verge of death? How can he still have such terrifying power? They would have believed it if he had injured General Xian Ying with those 3 sword moves. However, after using those 3 sword moves, he was obviously in a weakened state. He could even be killed at any time. However, in just a few minutes he was full of energy again. He had injured General Xian Ying again. They could not believe it. At that moment, everyone looked forward and their scalps went numb. Especially those from the Tai dynasty. They thought that General Xian Ying would be able to suppress his opponent in an instant. However, they did not expect it to be such a scene. General Xian Ying vomited blood and retreated. He stomped on the void, creating terrifying black holes one after another. He only stopped after creating 18 black holes in a row. Damn it! His face became abnormally gloomy, and even his handsome face became incomparably distorted. Damn it, how is that possible? General Xian Ying was also extremely shocked. He did not believe that his opponent could injure him in one move. But he stared at the ancient sword in Lin Xian's hand, and a terrifying light burst out from his eyes. He was determined to snatch this sword away from her. In the next moment, he snorted coldly and quickly formed a seal with his palms. In the sky, the blood that he spat out did not disappear. Instead, it quickly condensed. They formed one blood sword after another, and they charged forward. In an instant, 10 blood swords filled the air and slashed forward with a monstrous murderous aura. Looking at this scene, everyone was shocked. This method was too terrifying. The blood he spat out could even turn into a blood sword to kill people. And from the looks of it, its power was even more terrifying than ordinary mystiques. This General Xian Ying was also an extremely terrifying figure. A single drop of blood was enough to kill an expert. Looking at the incoming blood swords, Lin Xian coldly harumphed. He waved the ancient sword in his hand, and with the power of the great dragon sword spirit, he slashed forward. He swung his sword dozens of times in a row. Those blood swords were cut in half and dissipated into the void. Kill! The Xian Ying general roared angrily. He held his halberd with both hands and charged over again. A violent aura suddenly erupted from his body and swept through the 9 heavens. The Fang Tian painting collection danced like a flood dragon, bringing with it a shocking killing intent, completely drowning out the sky in front. Boom! Boom! Another intense collision occurred, causing the world to rumble. This time General Xian Ying was sent flying once again. His arm was numb and the muscles on his arm were torn. Blood spurted out once more, dyeing the halberd red. Damn it! Bloodthirsty true spirit! Kill it! General Xian Ying roared angrily. Blood stained the halberd. It didn't disappear. Instead, it used this chance to activate a powerful ability. The blood on the halberd trembled rapidly. Then, it turned into terrifying blood-colored beasts that charged out from the sky. These were blood crows, and every single one of them was like precious jade, sparkling and translucent. However, these blood crows contained an extremely terrifying killing intent. The moment they appeared, they pierced through the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Buzz! A blood crow flew out, spreading its wings and bringing with it a sea of blood. The entire sky was dyed red. Boom! The second blood crow flew out from the halberd. It brought with it a boundless killing intent, causing the entire sky to tremble. Boom! 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 The third blood crow flew out. It was surrounded by mysterious blood-colored runes that made one's heart tremble. A total of 9 blood crows flew out. They flew in circles in the sky. Then, under the control of General Xian Ying, they charged forward. Boom! 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 The 9 blood crows exploded together and flew forward. A terrifying blood-colored light filled the sky. At this moment, the sky was filled with a sea of blood. It was extremely terrifying. Collapse! However, Lin Xian roared angrily. On the Dragon Source Ancient Sword, the Dragon Soul Sword shadow exploded with a dazzling light. With a slash of the sword, the sky in front of him instantly collapsed. Countless cracks spread. Although the blood crows were powerful, they couldn't withstand this power at all. They instantly exploded into a bloody mist. This scene was too terrifying. General Xian Ying's ultimate move was useless in front of Lin Xian. It couldn't be helped. After sending out the Dragon Soul Sword, Lin Xian's combat strength was extremely powerful. Damn it, this was impossible. General Xian Ying roared crazily. He couldn't believe that Lin Xian could break his ultimate move so easily. However, in the next moment, his pupils constricted because Lin Xian had already charged over with the dragon-shaped sword shadow. Bus, bus, bus. Another 3 shocking sword chi slashed forward. Instantly, General Xian Ying was scared out of his wits. This was because when Lin Xian used this sword technique previously, he instantly killed the Ting family's living fossil and Hong Xinyang. Now that Lin Xian was using a similar move, how could he not be afraid? To be honest, the power of these 3 sword chi was about the same as the power of the Dragon Abyss Ancient Sword when the 3 seals were broken. It wasn't that the Dragon Soul Sword wasn't strong, but that Lin Xian could only use this power now. This was because the Dragon Soul Sword was vast and boundless like a bottomless pit. It could unleash as much power as one poured in. With Lin Xian's current strength, he could only unleash this level of combat strength. No matter how strong he was, the spiritual power in his body wouldn't be enough. However, these 3 sword chi were enough. One sword slashed the sky piercer away, while the other sword shattered more than 10 layers of defense. Boom. General Xian Ying's armor was shattered and a terrifying sword mark appeared, almost splitting him apart. This was only the damage caused by the aftermath of the sword chi. If the 3rd sword slashed down, it would definitely kill him. Oh, Brother Wuhan, save me. Looking at the 3rd sword chi descending from the sky, General Xian Ying roared crazily. Deep fear appeared in his eyes. He knew that he couldn't dodge this sword chi at all, nor could he resist it. He could only cry for help. His miserable voice spread and shook the surroundings. Hearing this, the surrounding people were shocked. What? Could it be that there's a peerless powerhouse here? Otherwise, why would General Xian Ying beg for help? One had to know that the strongest person present was General Xian Ying. Previously, the living fossil and Hong Xinyang had been killed, leaving only General Xian Ying. The rest of the people were not stronger than the general. Chapter 2357. Even Lin Xian furrowed his brows. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon had killed 8 peerless experts and retreated to the side. He did not attack again because he felt that this matter was very strange. Could it be that the other party wanted to confuse them? He could not understand. However, the sword chi was about to slash down and kill General Xian Ying. At this moment, a cold snort suddenly came from a spirit boat in the distance. Then, a golden ray of light flew over from afar like a bolt of lightning. That golden light quickly appeared in front of General Xian Ying. Then it transformed into an imperial gold cauldron and blocked the shocking sword light. The two collided and emitted a resplendent light. What? Was blocked? How was that possible? When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all went crazy. Someone actually blocked such a terrifying sword chi. Who was it? Who was it? Indeed, there was a peerless expert hiding here. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. They saw hope again. Because the sword chi that even General Xian Ying could not block was easily blocked by the other party. Needless to say, the other party's strength definitely surpassed General Xian Ying's. Thinking of this, they heaved a sigh of relief. Many people cheered. However, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon frowned. There was indeed someone. Moreover, it was a very terrifying expert. The other party did not show up at all. He only transformed into an aura and blocked the sword chi from the dragon sword soul. It had to be said that it really shocked Lin Xian. Who was it? Get out here. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon also roared. At the same time, he opened his mouth and spat out balls of dragon flame, blasting on the golden cauldron. Whoosh whoosh. The golden cauldron burned fiercely, but it did not melt. Instead, it became even more resplendent. In the next moment, tens of thousands of rays of light erupted from the cauldron, piercing through the dragon flames that filled the sky. General Xian Ying also took this opportunity to retreat far away. He quickly swallowed a pill. At the same time, his eyes were cold as he stared ahead. Do you think that a mysterious expert will be able to save you? Lin Xian snorted coldly. He held his sword again and walked forward. The dragon sword soul erupted. Another 2 shocking sword chi surged out and slashed forward. General Xian Ying's expression changed again. But soon he snorted coldly. Since that person had already made a move, he wouldn't just watch him get killed. Sure enough, in the next moment, another beam of golden light shot out from the spirit ship in the distance. It turned into a golden continent that floated in the sky. Then, a figure appeared on the golden continent and quickly walked over. His speed was not very fast, but every step he took seemed to shrink the ground into an inch, instantly appearing in front of him. In just 2 or 3 steps, he arrived near General Xianing from tens of thousands of miles away. Boom! He raised his hand and clenched his fist. His fists transformed into 2 black suns and smashed onto the sword qi, producing a clanging sound. Then the 2 disappeared into the sky at the same time. Who was this person? That was too terrifying. At this moment, countless pairs of eyes looked at that figure. The dark red divine dragon also frowned, and Lin Xian's pupils shrank. Because he felt that the black fist technique used by the other party was very familiar. In front of him was a middle-aged man. He was wearing battle armor and looked very valiant. He stood in the void and his powerful aura suppressed everything. The void under his feet was even distorted, forming a strange arc. Thank you, Brother Wuhan. General Xianing looked at the other party with a solemn expression. Go and rest at the side. Just leave the rest to me. The valiant man said in a deep voice. General Xianing nodded and retreated into the distance. It seemed that he wanted to leave the battlefield. When Lin Xian saw this scene, he snorted coldly. You want to leave? Did I say you could leave? As he said that, he slashed out with his sword. Terrifying sword qi swept across the sky like a rain of swords. A large portion of it charged towards General Xianing, courting death. Seeing this scene, the general roared. The valiant man also snorted coldly. He raised his large hand and slapped out. It was like a river of stars that filled the sky, cutting off all the sword qi. You want to kill in front of me? The valiant man said in a deep voice, his voice filled with killing intent. In the distance, General Xianing snorted coldly. Kit, you're overestimating yourself. Do you know? Who is Brother Wuhan? He's an expert from the War Tribe, the Golden Lion King's uncle. This time you're dead meat. What? The other party is actually an expert from the War Tribe? Heavens, did the War Tribe really come out? No wonder. No wonder the other party is so strong. It's the legendary War Tribe. Exclamations could be heard. Everyone was shocked. The dark red divine dragon also sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect an expert from the War Tribe to come. Moreover, from the looks of it, this was a true supreme expert. Lin Xian's expression was also solemn. So it's someone from the War Tribe. No wonder the other party's ability looked familiar. He didn't expect that the War Tribe would still come. Moreover, they sent out such a terrifying expert. The other party was much stronger than the Golden Lion King. There was no choice. The Golden Lion King was from the younger generation. Could be said that he was very young. The person in front of him was probably a true supreme expert who had lived for hundreds or thousands of years. Such an expert from the War Tribe was definitely terrifying and unfathomable. You're the kid who killed the Golden Lion King? Zhan Wuhan asked coldly. That's right, I killed the Golden Lion King. Lin Xian replied. That's because he deserved to die. He deserved to die. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Zhan Wuhan's face sank. A genius from the War Tribe actually deserves to die? The surrounding people were also discussing. Is this kid crazy? He actually dares to say such words in front of an expert from the War Tribe? Isn't this just trying to anger the other party? Lin Xian said loudly. He did deserve to die. He coveted my treasures and wanted to take them for himself. A genius from the War Tribe actually dares to do such a thing. Doesn't he deserve to die? What? The Golden Lion King was killed because of this? Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect there to be such a reason. Fancy your treasures? And you killed him? When Zhan Wuhan heard this, his body trembled. A terrifying killing intent surged out from his body. Then his voice became sinister. If a genius from the War Tribe wants a treasure, you have to obediently kneel down and give it to him. You actually dared to kill him? Your sin is unforgivable. I will capture you and make you kneel in front of his grave for 700 years. Every day you will have to endure the punishment of the War Tribe. Kneel down obediently? Hand it over with both hands? After Lin Xian heard this, he sneered. Your War Tribe is really arrogant. Do you really think that your War Tribe is invincible? Lin Xian was indeed incomparably furious. He originally thought that the Golden Lion King was overbearing and arrogant enough. He didn't expect that compared to the middle-aged man in front of him, the Golden Lion King paled in comparison. Chapter 2358. They originally thought that the Golden Lion King was already domineering and arrogant enough. Unexpectedly, compared to this middle-aged man in front of them, the Golden Lion King paled in comparison. Were all these people from the war race so unreasonable? The dark red divine dragon also screamed. Fuck, how can you say such shameless words? Are you sure you're not smearing the war race's reputation? To be honest, the dark red divine dragon had never seen such a shameless person. You're too shameless. You don't know what kind of existence our war race is. Back then, when our war race was at its peak, the world was respected. It was everyone's wish to be able to give us treasures. At that time, those who came to give us treasures could line up tens of thousands of miles away. How can an ant like you understand the strength of our war race? Is that so? Lin Xian sneered. But times have changed. Your war race was only powerful in the past. Now it has long declined. The times are changing and you've already been eliminated. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous, shaking the 9 heavens. Hearing this, no one dared to speak and frantically retreated. Sure enough, when Zhan Wuhan heard this, he immediately became angry. He was like a demon, emitting monstrous killing intent, instantly shattering the surrounding void. Someone actually dared to look down on his war race? He couldn't tolerate it. He had to kill the other party. A terrifying fist surged out, carrying the sun, moon, and stars, wanting to destroy the entire world. This attack was too terrifying. Endless light flickered. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon's expressions instantly changed. They discovered that the other party was very strong, unexpectedly strong. Even before the fist arrived, just the storm alone was enough to make their hair stand on end. This guy was at least a mid-stage 18-star expert. In addition, the war race's terrifying bloodline and powerful ability. Heavens, the power was unimaginable. The dark red divine dragon hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Kid, don't fight with him. The gap was too big. Don't worry, I still have a trump card. If the two of us join hands, we might be able to kill him. Even if we can't kill him, we have to seriously injure him. At least let him know that the war race wasn't an invincible existence. Lin Xian quickly replied. At the same time, he rapidly dodged and didn't resist at all. His body drew a streak of light in the sky, instantly pushing him far away. He was overestimating himself. He actually dared to fight against the war clan's experts? He was really courting death. Behind him, General Xianing sneered. The other party was able to kill the Golden Lion King because the Golden Lion King was young. And this Zhan Wuhan in front of him was a true war race expert. How could the other party contend against such a person? However, as soon as he sneered, he screamed in the next moment. His entire being became incomparably crazy. This was because an indescribable power was surging toward him. His soul was severely injured in an instant. Damn it, Brother Wu Hen. Save me. He screamed crazily. Courting death. Seeing this, Zhan Wuhan was enraged. His opponent actually had the strength to attack others while he was fighting with him? Was he looking down on him? Boom. Wuhan Zhan roared angrily and destroyed 4 of them. The terrifying chi waves enveloped an area of 100,000 miles, forcing Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon to retreat frantically. 1 down. Lin Xian stepped back and sneered. This was because when he was dodging just now, he had directly used the secret soul burning technique to forcefully attack General Xianing. General Xianing also had a soul defense artifact, but he did not expect Lin Xian to attack him while fighting with the war race expert. In a moment of carelessness, he was hit by the secret soul burning technique. Sure enough, in the next moment, his soul burned, and the pain made him scream miserably. Brother Wu Hen, save me. General Xianing rolled crazily in the sky. He did not suffer any injuries, but the pain made everyone's hair stand on end. When Zhan Wuhan saw this, he frowned. Soul attack? He snorted coldly and used his divine ability to save General Xianing, but he realized that he could not do it at all. This made his face extremely gloomy. Save me. General Xianing screamed again, then stopped struggling. His body floated in the void, his eyes wide open. This was because he could not believe that he was killed by a brat. What? General Xianing was also dead. The people from the Tai dynasty felt their scalps go numb. General Xianing was the Empress' younger brother. If he died like this, how would they explain it when they returned? The Empress would probably go crazy. Everyone spat out saliva, not daring to imagine. However, they quickly put away General Xianying's body. What a terrifying soul secret technique. Zhan Wuhan's face was also solemn. He took out a jade pendant and protected his body. He had to admit that the other party's soul power attack had shocked him. On the spirit ship in the distance, a young man in white also frowned. Then he pinched his fingers and calculated, and a look of shock appeared in his eyes. In the next moment he turned around and left without saying anything. "Kid, you will pay a painful price for your actions." Zhang Wuhan looked over again. His eyes bloomed like bolts of lightning. It was very dazzling. At this moment he was like a god of war. Was that so? The war race's expert could not only be good at talking, right? Lin Xian sneered. Although he was mocking the other party, he was not careless at all. He quickly waved the Dragon Source ancient sword and used the great Dragon Sword Soul with all his strength. The two combined and erupted with a terrifying sword light that slashed forward. Boom, boom, boom. Zhang Wuhan waved his sleeve, and a red cauldron appeared in front of him. The cauldron was more than a meter tall and was very heavy. The moment it appeared, it collapsed the void. It was very old and some parts were even covered in dust. It seemed that it had existed for countless years. However, at this moment the red cauldron was emitting light, and the patterns on it were clearly visible. It was a phoenix that was born from fire. It was as if a real divine beast was bound to the cauldron. The moment the cauldron appeared, it brought with it a monstrous heat wave that seemed to be able to burn everything. Looking at the incoming sword chi, Zhang Wuhan slapped the red cauldron with his palm. Buzz! Instantly, the cauldron shone brightly, and the phoenix seemed to come alive as it spread its wings and soared. Endless light rushed out, and a fiery red phoenix appeared in the sky. Flames flickered on its body and it was extremely sharp. It was as if a real divine beast was facing the terrifying sword chi. The two collided and the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Dazzling light covered the entire sky. Flames were everywhere and sword chi filled the sky. The two collided intensely and then dissipated in the sky at the same time. What? That kid actually blocked the attack of the war race's expert. Heavens! How did he do it? Everyone exclaimed when they saw this scene. The war race's expert was a legendary existence. He was like a god of war. A young man was actually able to block it. This shocked them greatly. Zhang Wuhan also frowned. He had to admit that the other party was very strong, far beyond his expectations. Chapter 2359. Lin Xian blocked the attack, but he wasn't happy. He had used his full strength and he had used the great Dragon Sword Soul. He couldn't use this kind of power for long. He didn't have much spiritual power left. Even if he recovered quickly, he couldn't afford the crazy absorption of the great Dragon Sword Soul. His opponent had already seen the heavenly secret god eyes, and he had used a defensive artifact. His sneak attack wouldn't succeed. Apart from that, there was the dragon-shaped sword Shadow and the three seals of the ancient dragon Abyss sword. These two attacks should be able to injure his opponent. Dark Red Dragon, prepare to attack and use your strongest killing move. Lin Xian sent a voice transmission to Snowy White Marquis inside the Black Earth. Little White, prepare to attack. I'm on my side. Snowy White Marquis nodded and waited for an opportunity. Buzz! Lin Xian sent out a few rays of sword chi and rushed over. When he got close to Zhang Wuhan, the golden light in his eyes appeared again. Floating light. Umph! Zhang Wuhan activated the red furnace, and the terrifying phoenix shattered the surrounding sword chi. At the same time, a layer of ripples appeared on his body. He sneered. Another soul attack. It's useless. This is a treasure passed down from ancient times. Your soul power can't penetrate it. Indeed, if not for the incident with General Xianying, Zhang Wuhan might have been careless. His opponent's sneak attack might have succeeded. But after that incident, Zhang Wuhan was very careful. He carefully protected his soul. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of his opponent's soul attack at all. But in the next moment he made a sound. Because he still felt a wave of soul energy. Although it was much weaker, it still reached him. This made him even more shocked. One had to know that his jade pendant was an ancient jade. It was very precious. But his opponent's soul power could still reach him. This surprised him. What kind of soul attack was this? He didn't dare to imagine. But in the next moment, he snorted and activated his defensive jade pendant. At the same time, his soul power surged out to resist the attack. He was an expert of the battle tribe. His soul power was very strong. So he defended and attacked at the same time. Soon he dispelled the illusion brought by floating light. However, although the illusion failed, Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. That was because his true attack was not floating light. All of this was bait. Alright, now is the time. Let's do it. Lin Xian roared. Then the little white monkey dashed out. In an instant he was right in front of Zhang Wuhan. His furry little paw slapped Scarlet War's face. Zhang Wuhan felt dizzy. Although he knew he was in trouble, he couldn't react in time. Little White's attack succeeded, and it disappeared instantly. At this moment, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon made their move. Lin Xian roared. He held the ancient dragon abyss sword in his right hand and grabbed the dragon-shaped sword shadow formed by the great dragon sword soul with his left hand. Then both swords slashed forward. The third seal of the ancient dragon abyss sword was released, and its power increased dramatically, causing Lin Xian's right arm to be severed in an instant. However, Lin Xian couldn't care less. He gritted his teeth and slashed forward. The dragon-shaped sword shadow in his left hand exploded with a dazzling light. It turned into a real dragon and slashed forward. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon also roared. Endless dragon blood aura surged from its body. It cooperated with the Earth's spiritual energy and created 18 dragon blood shadows. It charged forward. At the same time, behind him, endless light gathered and turned into a long red saber. It slashed down from the sky. The two of them attacked with their 4 ultimate moves. Boom, 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 boom. Everything in front of them was annihilated in an instant. Boom. Lin Xian's face was pale. He was blasted away by the energy. Fortunately, he summoned the Dragon Sword Realm at the critical moment and blocked a lot of it. The dark red divine dragon beside him swung its tail and carried Lin Xian tens of thousands of miles away. The surrounding martial artists weren't so lucky. They were instantly affected and screamed. Before they could fly back, their bodies exploded and turned into blood mist. Only a few experts were able to escape. Those spiritual boats, birds, beasts, and the terrifying demon kings were all destroyed. This attack could be said to have killed most of the warriors. Less than 1,000 of them were left alive. At this moment, they were looking forward in bewilderment. Could the war tribe's experts survive after being hit by such a terrifying energy? They didn't dare to imagine. In addition, tens of thousands of miles away, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were also looking forward with flickering eyes. Lin Xian swallowed another treasure. However, this time he could only recover half of his strength. There was no other way. Using the Dragon Source ancient sword too many times had caused the burden on his body to reach an extreme. Therefore, no matter how many treasures he had, he couldn't recover to his peak state. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. The dragon-shaped sword shadow, the Dragon Source ancient sword's 3 seals, and the dark red divine dragon's 2 ultimate moves. Thinking about it, he should be able to kill his opponent. After waiting for a long time, the violent energy in front of them gradually disappeared. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Because the final result was finally about to be revealed. The sword chi that filled the sky disappeared, and a figure appeared. The armor on his body was shattered, and his hair was disheveled. It was Zhan Wuhan. At this moment he was in an abnormally sorry state. There were many wounds on his body and his body was on the verge of collapse. However, he didn't collapse in the end. He was fine. Seeing this scene, the cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. However, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon frowned. They were surprised that Zhan Wuhan didn't die after such a violent attack. One had to know that apart from the Black Earth and the Sage's Hand Bone, this was already the strongest power they could use. Even so, they still couldn't kill Zhan Wuhan. It had to be said that the war tribe's experts were too terrifying. "Brat, how dare you injure me? I want you dead." Zhan Wuhan raised his head, and his eyes emitted a cold light. At that moment he had indeed felt the threat of death. If he wasn't a war tribe expert and didn't have a treasure that could defend him, he would have died. That attack just now would have taken his life. He couldn't tolerate that a brat could threaten his life. In the next moment he roared at the sky, took out a red pill the size of a longan and swallowed it. Immediately his body emitted crackling sounds. His damaged body and broken bones quickly healed. His originally heavily injured body recovered again, and he was heading towards his peak. What kind of pill was that? It was too heaven-defying. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 2360. Damn it, if the other party recovered to his peak, they would not be able to fight him at all. Therefore he would not allow such a thing to happen. The next moment, Lin Xian summoned the Black Earth and used its powerful attack power to kill the other party. At most, he would just have to waste some resources. He could always find more in the future. But the Black Earth appeared, exuding an ancient aura. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon were about to enter. However, Zhan Wuhan suddenly raised his hand. 5 mysterious runes appeared in his hand and rushed forward. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, the seal of the 5 elements. 5 types of energy rotated in the sky, exuding a mysterious aura and sealing the black earth in the sky. Boom boom. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon were bounced back. What? Lin Xian was shocked. What was going on? The black earth was sealed? Damn it, this old man was too fast. The dark red divine dragon was also hopping mad. The two of them were already fast enough. However, it did not expect the other party to be even faster. Moreover, it had already recognized that this was a terrifying seal of the 5 elements. It would be difficult to break it in a short time. Black Earth attacked. The dark red dragon roared. However, the black earth did not react at all. Damn it. The dark red dragon was so angry that it stomped its feet. Lin Xian's face was also gloomy. On the other side, Zhan Wuhan snorted coldly. Kid, do you think we don't know what trump card you have? Everything you did in General Shenying's residence has long been known to us. What? You know all of our trump cards. Lin Xian frowned. This was not good news. Could be said that it was terrible. Moreover, it did not look like it was fake. Otherwise, the other party would not have sealed the black earth as soon as they used it. Obviously, the other party knew the power of the black earth. Damn it. It was those people from the general's residence. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. Back then, he had destroyed the general's residence, but there were still many warriors who survived. Those warriors must have told the other party the process of the battle. That was why his trump card was exposed. In that case, the saint's hand bone would be exposed as well. It was fortunate that the snow-white monkey had caught the other party off guard. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to injure the other party. Damn it, this is going to be difficult. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. The black earth had been sealed, so it was unlikely that they would be able to break it in a short period of time. Then the only thing that could be used was the saint's hand bone. However, from the looks of it, the other party seemed to have a way to deal with it. Brat, you don't have any more moves, right? Die obediently for me. Zhan Wuhan sneered and strode over. Murderous intent surged from his body. F***K. You have the nerve to say that. The dark red divine dragon cursed. How old are you? How old is he? A 1,000-year-old monster was beating up a 20-year-old boy? How could he have the cheek to say such words? Lin Xian also snorted coldly. If we're at the same level, I'll kill you like a dog. In your battle clan's younger generation, no one is my match. So what? Only geniuses who grow up are geniuses. Dead geniuses are nothing. Zhan Wuhan was completely unmoved. He admitted that the other party was indeed a genius, and he was even more terrifying than the battle clan's geniuses. However, he would not allow such a person to grow up. Especially when the other party was the battle clan's enemy. If he allowed the other party to leave, then in a few hundred or 1,000 years, the other party would definitely become an invincible king. He would not invite such a powerful enemy for his family. Therefore, he had to kill the other party today. Brat, you can only blame yourself for being reckless. How dare you provoke my battle clan? Now you can die obediently. Zhan Wuhan activated the red furnace above his head, and the crazy beast pounced down again. The void instantly collapsed as if there was a great collapse. A terrifying wave of flames swept out in all directions. Lin Xian kept retreating. At the same time, sword energy surged out from his body, forming a sword screen. However, he was still forced back. At this moment, he only had half of his usual strength. Lin Xian spat out another mouthful of blood. He wiped the corner of his mouth and gritted his teeth. Damn it, use the saint's hand bone. Use the black earth as a shield in front of me. I don't believe that guy can withstand it. Okay, I'll set up the formation now. The dark red divine dragon also nodded. He was also very displeased by the other party's arrogance. However, the other party was too powerful. Perhaps only the saint's hand bone could deal with him. In the next moment, Lin Xian took out the saint's hand bone without holding back. It was a very small bone that floated in the sky. However, the aura it emitted was too terrifying. It was even more terrifying than Zhan Wuhan's aura. Damn it, what is that? The people in the distance felt their scalps go numb. Their faces were filled with horror. This brat actually has such a terrifying treasure? They were really shocked. If the brat used this treasure to deal with them, none of them would be able to escape. Thinking of this, they felt a chill down their backs. Heavens, what kind of existence did we provoke? The Ting family and the people from the governor's residence had ugly expressions. The people from the Tai dynasty also had grave expressions. Although they knew that the other party had a heaven-defying treasure, they had never seen it before. Now that they saw it with their own eyes, it was indeed very shocking. A saint's item. Zhan Wuhan also felt a great amount of pressure. However, the light in his eyes was indeed getting brighter. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. He had to admit that the other party was not only powerful, but also had too many treasures in his hands. That long sword, the saint's hand bone, and the black spirit ship were all top-grade treasures. This was also because he did not know about the great dragon sword soul and the heavenly secret divine eyes. If he had discovered the great dragon sword soul and the heavenly secret divine eyes like the golden lion king, he would probably go crazy immediately. Boom. Lin Xian tore open the seal on the saint's hand bone. Immediately, the terrifying aura of the saint swept through the 9 heavens as if it could suppress everything in the world. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon instantly pulled away from each other. At the same time, Lin Xian summoned the black earth again to block in front of him and defend. It could not be helped. The pressure of the saint was too terrifying. In addition to the black earth, he also used the dragon sword realm. The great dragon sword soul let out a loud dragon roar to resist the terrifying pressure. Off, off. Lin Xian temporarily blocked the pressure of the saint. His eyes flickered. However, the people around him were not so lucky. Hundreds of cultivators were instantly crushed by the pressure of the saint. They turned into a bloody mist that filled the sky. The remaining people also vomited large mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were filled with fear as they quickly fled. It could not be helped. They could not resist the pressure of the saint at all. Buzz. Chapter 2361. On the other side, Zhang Wuhan also felt a great pressure. The flaming phoenix above his head instantly cracked, and it struggled on the ground. Then it collapsed and turned into countless flames that scattered in all directions. The fiery red cauldron was also trembling non-stop, as if it was about to worship. Zhang Wuhan's expression was ferocious. Was this the pressure of a sage? It was indeed powerful. As expected, it was good stuff. Kid, I have to say that you have a lot of treasures in your hands. I'm going to take this sage's bone. Hearing Zhang Wuhan's voice, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Are you people from the battle tribe poor? Why do you want other people's things? The dark red dragon also spat. Shameless. Zhang Wuhan's face darkened. You sharp-tongued kid. When I catch you later, I'll knock your teeth out one by one. And you stinky loach. I'll skin you and make you into a pair of battle boots later. Fuck. What a temper. Come here, I'll slap you to death. The dark red dragon gritted its teeth in anger. The other party was really asking for a beating. Zhang Wuhan snorted coldly and did not say anything. In the next moment, his body shone brightly. Then, a golden armor appeared and covered his body. The golden armor was too valiant. It shone brightly and shot into the sky. Not only that, but mysterious patterns floated on it, emitting a terrifying aura. Fuck, an invincible armor. Damn it, this guy actually has such a thing. When the golden armor appeared, the dark red dragon immediately screamed, and its expression became extremely ugly. What was an invincible armor? Lin Xian also frowned. It seemed to be related to invincible kings. That's right, it was indeed related to invincible kings. It was the armor worn by invincible kings. He did not expect this guy to have one. It seemed that the other party was indeed well prepared. Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. It was just an invincible king. Compared to a sage, it was slightly weaker. He should not be able to block it. No, not necessarily. Don't underestimate the armor of an invincible king. It was a complete armor, and it even had the consciousness of an invincible king. It was very terrifying. Although the sage's hand bone is powerful, we don't dare to unlock all the seals. In the past, we had the black earth so we could unlock all the seals. Even if that guy had an invincible armor, he would not be able to block it. But now, let's wait and see. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon discussed quickly. Then the two of them looked ahead. Ahead of them, Zhang Wuhan put on the invincible battle suit, and his body shone brightly. The ancient saint's aura immediately weakened significantly. As for the rest, he could rely on his own strength to resist them. In the next moment, he walked forward with his pulsing steps. He slowly approached the saint's hand bone. At the same time, he stretched out a palm. Above his 5 fingers, 5 balls of energy were spinning rapidly, representing the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It was the 5-element seal from before. From the looks of it, Zhang Wuhan wanted to seal the saint's hand bone and take it for himself. But halfway through he stopped again. Because Lin Xian tore open some more seals. Suddenly the aura of a sage surged. Once this aura appeared, the people in the distance vomited blood again. Zhang Wuhan had no choice but to stop. The next moment, the energy in his body poured into the invincible armor, forming a dazzling light that enveloped him. Buzz! Zhang Wuhan reached out a hand and grabbed in front of him. The 5 elemental seal moved together. The light between heaven and earth trembled. The void shattered, and the sage's hand bone was completely enveloped. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon's hearts were in their throats. However, the sage's hand bone was a sage's treasure. Sensing the danger of being sealed, it automatically counterattacked. A golden light shot out, piercing the 9 heavens. Boom! The 5 elemental seal was instantly shattered. Zhang Wuhan retracted his hand. His palm was bleeding profusely. How terrifying. It can't be a sage's bone. Just a ray of light could pierce through my palm. Zhang Wuhan looked at his palm and muttered to himself. However, the light in his eyes was even more dazzling. He had to get his hands on this peerless treasure. You want to snatch the sage's hand bone? Dream on. The dark red dragon sneered disdainfully. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're wearing the invincible armor? Do you think you're too weak in front of a sage? Is that so? Zhang Wuhan was not angry. Instead he smiled. Do you think you're the only ones who have a sage's treasure? What? Hearing this, the dark red dragon was stunned. Lin Xian also frowned. What did he mean? Did he also have a sage's treasure? In the distance the people were even more shocked. What do a bunch of ants know? Today I'll show you. Zhang Wuhan snorted. He waved his sleeve and took out an ancient mirror. The mirror was octagonal and green. As soon as it appeared, it floated in the sky and shone down thousands of rays of light. The aura on it was extremely terrifying. It carried the might of a sage. Seeing this scene, everyone was horrified. The people in the distance immediately knelt on the ground. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon's eyelids were also twitching. A complete artifact. Heavens, could it be a weapon that a sage had used before? If that was the case, there was no need to fight. No, it was not a sage's weapon. The dark red dragon realized that the mirror had been modified. Did you notice? Only the centermost piece is a sage's weapon. The rest of the places were added later. So that was the case. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He had indeed noticed it. Of the 8 ancient green mirrors, only the centermost piece was dark green. It was very ancient and desolate. It was completely different from the other parts of the mirror. Needless to say, that was a fragment of a sage's weapon. That fragment was only the size of a fingernail, even smaller than his sage's drum. After knowing this, the 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was only a fragment. As long as it was not a complete sage's weapon, it would not be a fatal blow to them. However, Zhang Wuhan snorted coldly. What do you know? Although it's only a fragment, it was still refined by a supreme powerhouse of the battle tribe. Moreover, it formed a new artifact. Its power is definitely above your sage's drum bone. Just you wait, I'll show you its power soon. Zhang Wuhan snorted coldly. Buzz. He raised his hand and shot out countless rays of light into the ancient bronze mirror in front of him. Immediately, the ancient bronze mirror spun rapidly. The green light was like flowing water, sprinkling all over the world. A vast aura surged, causing everyone's hearts to beat wildly. The people in the distance could no longer hold on. Many of them had fainted. Only a few of the older generation were still bitterly holding on. There were still hundreds of thousands of miles between them. Chapter 2362. Zhang Wuhan had a solemn expression on his face. He was wearing the invincible king armor, which allowed him to use the 6 directions ancient mirror. On the other side, Lin Xian and the Monkey King were safe for the time being. This was because the sage's arm bone had blocked off the terrifying pressure. However, they still had no idea what would happen next. Kid, you can't use the sage's arm bone at all. You can only passively tear apart its power. If you do that, you will suffer immeasurable pain. Therefore, in front of me you can't resist at all. Now go to hell for me. Zhang Wuhan's cold voice rang out. The 6 directions ancient mirror above his head shone even brighter. It was like a green moon that spun in the sky. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Little White, use your ultimate move. The little white monkey did not enter the black earth. Instead, it sat on Lin Xian's shoulder and took down the small bowl above his head. Wuji, the treasure bowl shone brightly, forming a mysterious force that seemed to want to snatch the 6 directions ancient mirror. Of course, he couldn't really snatch it. After all, it was a fragment of a sage. However, he still affected the 6 directions ancient mirror. In the sky, the green mirror trembled. A ray of light shot down, piercing through the void and almost injuring Zhang Wuhan. Zhang Wuhan's face turned ugly. Damn it, what's going on? The other party could actually interfere with his 6 directions ancient mirror. He couldn't believe it. The dark red divine dragon had a smug look on its face when it saw this. Aren't the war tribe's experts powerful? What's wrong? You can't even control your own treasure? You'd better hold it tight. Don't get pierced and killed by your own family's treasure. That would be a huge joke. Damn it, I'm going to kill you guys. Hearing this, Zhang Wuhan's face darkened. Killing intent surged from his body. Boom boom boom. The 6 directions ancient mirror shot out a ray of light that turned into eternal light. It charged forward, wanting to pierce through Lin Xian and the dark red dragon. Lin Xian, on the other hand, quickly manipulated the saint's hand bone to fight against it. One was the sage's arm bone, while the other was the sage's weapon fragment. When the two collided, terrifying cracks spread out in all directions. Boom. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragons retreated, and the black earth in front of them also retreated. On the other side, Zhang Wuhan also retreated. Although he was protected by the invincible battle armor, he did not dare to resist the pressure of a saint. Boom. Boom. Terrifying cracks appeared in the sky one after another. They were tens of thousands of meters long and were extremely terrifying. Thunder and lightning struck down from the fissure, piercing through the earth. Tens of thousands of meters away, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon used the black soil to protect their bodies. There were countless array formations around them. The two of them looked ahead with pale faces. No, the most he could do now was to fight back. However, the other party probably wouldn't dare to resist this energy head-on. We're not in any danger yet, the dark red dragon quickly said. But in the next moment, he frowned because Zhang Wuhan had charged over again. Damn it, what's going on? The dark red divine dragon screamed. Lin Xian also frowned. How could the enemy pass through such a terrifying energy barrier? But soon he understood. The 6 directions ancient mirror in the other party's hand had disappeared. The other party was charging over alone. Damn it, he had used the 6 directions ancient mirror to block the saint's hand bone. That's right, Zhang Wuhan had done that. He had directly abandoned the 6 directions ancient mirror and let the two saints' items confront each other in the sky. Meanwhile, he was wearing the invincible battle armor and charging over. Even without the saint's weapon, he was confident that he could kill the other party. Go to hell, brat. Zhang Wuhan's large hand slammed down. That palm was too terrifying. It carried a sky full of lightning and flashed incomparably. It was like a sea of lightning that directly enveloped Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon. Clang. Lin Xian directly grabbed the black earth and blocked in front of him. Countless lightning bolts struck the black earth, causing it to shake violently. Then Lin Xian and the others were forced to retreat. This force was too strong and they vomited large mouthfuls of blood. The dark red divine dragon swung its tail and spat out a sky full of flames. Lin Xian also roared angrily. He held the ancient sword again and charged forward. The little white monkey at the side also appeared from time to time, ready to attack at any time. But this time, Zhang Wuhan had the previous experience. His body was constantly filled with a golden light that blocked everything. Although Little White was fast, she could not get close to him now. Bang! Bang! After dozens of moves, Lin Xian vomited blood and was sent flying. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon was also tumbling in the sky. Both of them were injured. It could not be helped. Zhang Wuhan was too strong, and what was worse was that he was wearing an invincible battle armor. The invincible battle armor's defense was terrifying. It was comparable to a heaven-grade weapon. This kind of defense was innately invincible. If you two ants dare to attack me? Zhang Wuhan looked ahead and sneered. He once again slapped out 2 thunder palms and sent the two of them flying. Damn it! Lin Xian roared angrily. The dragon-shaped sword appeared again. He grabbed it and slashed forward. Buzz! The energy that he had recovered was instantly sucked away. Boom! The terrifying sword light was like a flying dragon. It slashed on Zhang Wuhan's body with a deafening sound. Zhang Wuhan was sent flying, vomiting blood. Although he was wearing the invincible battle armor and was not cut open, however, that terrifying power passed through the armor and struck his body, causing his insides to continue to churn. What was that sword energy? After flying for a few thousand meters, Zhang Wuhan stopped. His face was extremely gloomy. His opponent could actually hurt him through the invincible battle armor. He did not dare to believe it. What shocked him even more was that it was not caused by his opponent's sword, but a blurry sword shadow. What was that? His eyes were like lightning as he stared at the sword shadow. However, at that moment, dark clouds appeared in the sky. Then thunder began to fall. Damn it, do you really think I'm easy to bully? The dark red dragon controlled the terrifying lightning and descended. The five-colored lightning was like a heavenly tribulation. It pierced through the void and sent Zhang Wuhan flying again. Zhang Wuhan's body was pitch black. His hair was standing on end. His face was also charred. His eyes were extremely ferocious. Damn it, what was going on? This snake was actually able to injure him? Zhang Wuhan flew out of the crack in the ground and returned to the sky. He looked at Lin Xian and the dark red dragon. Good. The two of you have completely infuriated me. I'll let you know the consequences of offending me. Clang. Fearless lion seal. Zhang Wuhan formed a seal with his palms and attacked. Buzz. The golden light on his body shot into the sky. He turned into a golden lion and charged over. Boom. The dark red dragon swung its tail and slammed into the golden lion. Chapter 2363. Seal of the Fearless Lion. Heavens, how could he withstand the seal of the Fearless Lion? The surrounding people were shocked. Wasn't that the battle tribe's mystique? How could he do it? Even Zhang Wuhan's pupils constricted. His face was filled with shock. Boom. In the sky, the two giant golden lions collided, tearing the void apart. But soon, the golden lion that Lin Xian had unleashed dimmed and was torn apart. That was because Zhang Wuhan was too powerful. Moreover, Lin Xian was injured, and his strength was only half of what it was before. Therefore, there was no way he could fight back. Lin Xian was sent flying once again, coughing up blood. The dark red dragon flew out and exchanged blows with Zhang Wuhan. The two of them exchanged more than 10 blows. Then the dragon flew back as well, grimacing in pain. Damn it, isn't this guy's strength too strong? There was nothing they could do. Although Zhang Wuhan did not have the sage artifact fragment, he was wearing the invincible armor. The two of them could not break through his defense. Humph, the two of you are no match for me. Zhang Wuhan sneered. Although he was also suspicious of how Zhang Wuhan could use the seal of the Fearless Lion, he thought that once he captured Zhang Wuhan, he would be able to find out all of his secrets. He stretched out a large palm and grabbed at Zhang Wuhan. The huge palm flashed with shocking power and enveloped Lin Xian. Floating light. Soul ignition. At this critical moment, Lin Xian quickly dodged. At the same time, he used the two killer moves of the heavenly secret god eyes. This time he spared no effort in unleashing it. Because right now, his strongest attack was his soul force. The light on Zhang Wuhan's body fluctuated. Clearly, the two killer moves had triggered his soul defense artifact. Instantly, ripples appeared. The surrounding space was also strangely distorted. Zhang Wuhan snorted coldly and increased his defense. However, in the next moment he still groaned. Because he felt as if his soul was about to split open. It was as if a sharp sword had pierced his soul. Damn it! Zhang Wuhan roared. His black hair danced wildly in the wind. His head seemed to have split open. He held his head with both hands and roared non-stop. Boom. Terrifying cracks appeared in the void one after another, and the huge palm of light in the sky also disappeared. Traceless War was in a state of madness. On the other side, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon took this opportunity to retreat quickly. Not only that, but the two of them also launched an attack. Lin Xian once again summoned the great dragon sword soul. The dragon-shaped sword shadow floated in the air and he grabbed it. He gritted his teeth and roared. He quickly slashed out a dragon-shaped sword energy that danced in the air and viciously struck forward. Clang. The dark red divine dragon's body, which was 100 feet long, continued to dance. The scales on its body flew off and formed a long red saber that slashed down from the sky. The saber and the sword were extremely sharp as they enveloped Zhang Wuhan. Boom. An intense collision sounded. The invincible armor exploded with golden light, covering the entire sky. Violent energy erupted like a torrential flood. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were sent flying by this energy. The two of them kept retreating, but their eyes were incomparably bright as they stared straight ahead. After a long time, the energy in front of them gradually disappeared. A roar came from the void. Zhang Wuhan's hair was disheveled, his face pale, and there was blood on his body. The invincible armor also dimmed a little, but it did not crack. Even so, Zhang Wuhan was still affected. His internal organs were injured and even a few of his ribs were broken. Zhang Wuhan could not accept this. After all, he was wearing the invincible armor. Ordinary almighties could not break his defense at all. But now, the man and the dragon had actually managed to injure him. Damn brat, you'll pay a painful price. Zhang Wuhan gritted his teeth, his expression unusually ferocious. In the next moment he clenched his fist and charged forward again. His black fist was as dazzling as the sun flashing in the sky. The terrifying light was like an ocean, illuminating tens of thousands of feet. Bam bam. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were sent flying. The two of them crashed into a few mountains. Zhang Wuhan charged again. In the sky, the blazing sun fist danced continuously, erupting with terrifying power. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon gritted their teeth and quickly dodged. Damn it, this can't go on. Let's wait a little longer. Lin Xian continued to swallow pills, preparing to recover his strength. But in the next moment he roared angrily. Damn it. He did not care about his injuries anymore. Instead he charged forward like a madman. In front of him, Zhang Wuhan had abandoned him and the dark red divine dragon to attack the saint's hand bone. It seemed like he wanted to take it. Lin Xian would not let him succeed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The demigods and semi-devils left after images in the air as he charged forward. At the same time he formed seals and frantically tore open the seal on the saint's hand bone. The saint's aura appeared again, sweeping through heaven and earth, forming a golden storm. The surrounding space trembled violently. Lin Xian was instantly sent flying. On the other side, Zhang Wuhan was also vomiting blood. His face was pale. As for the martial artists in the distance, they were affected by the golden light. Then their eyes widened as they exploded into a bloody mist. The dark red divine dragon swung its tail and caught Lin Xian. At the same time, it dripped a few drops of dragon blood on him. Don't worry, I won't die. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. Then he asked, that guy didn't succeed, right? Don't worry, he didn't. That guy was also sent flying. The dark red divine dragon hurriedly said. That's good. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. After absorbing a few drops of dragon blood, he recovered a little. Crack. He stood up and looked forward. Opposite him, Zhang Wuhan was roaring crazily. His injuries had worsened. After all, he had been affected by the saint's energy. Even with the invincible armor, it was useless. But this time he did not give up. He took out a golden pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. Then he strode forward. This time he must take the saint's hand bone for himself. It's not that easy to get the saint's hand bone. At most we'll die together. Lin Xian's eyes flashed with madness. He once again tore open the saint's seal without any regard for his life. He and the dark red divine dragon blocked the saint's energy with the black earth. On the other side, Zhang Wuhan held the six harmonies mirror and fought. Boom boom boom. Zhang Wuhan retreated, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were sent flying, vomiting blood again. Seeing this, Zhang Wuhan sneered. Kid, we're both injured. But you can't outlast me. I have the invincible armor. What do you have? In a few more times I won't even have to do anything. You'll be killed by the saint's aura. Ah. Chapter 2364. Is that so? You can try. Lin Xian's eyes turned cold. In the next moment he held the ancient sword and slashed at the sage's hand bone. Damn brat, how dare you! Seeing this, Zhang Wuhan's expression changed again. He controlled the six directions ancient mirror and unleashed a sky full of light that enveloped him. At the same time he frantically retreated. He had no choice. The collision of auras and slashing were two completely different things. Although the previous impact was fierce, Zhang Wuhan was able to withstand it with the invincible armor and the six directions ancient mirror in his hand. However, it was different now. When the sword slashed at the sage's hand bone, it completely activated the power of the sage's hand bone. Even if he had the invincible armor, it would not work. After all, he was not a true invincible king. However, he could not care less now. The energy in his body surged out crazily and poured into the invincible armor and the ancient mirror in his hand. At this moment he even activated the power of his bloodline. As soon as he moved, a violent energy surged toward him. It hit him. Boom, boom, boom. The invincible armor shone brightly, forming a terrifying defense. The six directions ancient mirror in his hand also released tens of thousands of auras. Boom, boom. The collision of the two was earth-shattering. However, Zhang Wuhan was still instantly engulfed. On the other side, Lin Xian was also affected. The great dragon sword soul in his body surged out and enveloped him. At the same time, the black earth blocked in front of him. It kept expanding until it turned into a black mountain. Crack, crack. The dark red divine dragon used a secret technique and the dragon blood in his body surged. In a flash, he appeared beside Lin Xian and unleashed a sky full of arrays to resist the terrifying aura in front of him. In the next moment he was also engulfed by the sage's light. The sage's light was too terrifying. It spread out in all directions. 100,000 miles, 200,000 miles, 500,000 miles. It was completely enveloped. Within a radius of 500,000 miles, the world changed drastically. Mountains and rivers collapsed in an instant. Cracks appeared in the sky and the earth were formed. A terrifying explosion rang out and shock waves filled the sky, spreading out in all directions. Everyone within a radius of 1,000,000 miles felt it. They all looked up in horror. When they saw the bright light in the distance and the terrifying aura emitted, everyone's scalps went numb. The almighties in the nearby cities all flew into the sky, their faces filled with horror. Damn it, who is fighting? What a terrifying aura. Some of the older generation figures also walked out one after another. Even the living fossil-level old men could no longer remain calm. At this moment, everyone was focused. However, no one dared to the front. That was because the aura in front of them made them tremble even though they were millions of miles away. Who dared to go forward? They only dared to watch from afar. After a long time, the terrifying light gradually disappeared, and the surrounding energy receded like a tide. The cracks in the sky, but the earth, however, the cracks on the ground could not be mended. The ground was overturned, and cracks that were hundreds of thousands of miles long appeared, forming a grand canyon. He was Zhan Wuhan. At this moment, the invincible armor on Zhan Wuhan's body was very dim. Many of the bones in his body were broken, and his internal organs were severely injured. His face was pale and he kept vomiting blood. The six-direction ancient mirror floated beside him. Fortunately, the mirror had blocked the most terrifying impact and saved his life. Otherwise he would have been killed. Damn it. Zhan Wuhan took out a pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. He gritted his teeth. He did not expect that something like this would happen when he was trying to capture a brat. He almost lost his life. Even if he did not die, he was seriously injured. It would probably take a lot of effort to fully recover. His expression darkened. But fortunately he survived. Thinking about it, that kid and that snake should have been killed, right? After all, those two did not have the invincible armor or the defense of a sage's weapon. He had to recover some of his strength before thinking of a way to find that brat's body. That brat must have countless secrets, especially that sword, the black earth, and the sage's hand bone in the sky. He had to get them all. Although he was seriously injured this time, those treasures were enough to drive him crazy. That was because he could tell that those treasures would cause everyone to go crazy if they were taken out. It was a great fortune for him to be able to obtain them all. Clang. He sat down cross-legged and wanted to recover. However, not long after, he frowned. That was because he sensed an aura fluctuation in the distance. Sure enough, in the next moment, he looked over and saw that a few huge rocks had been pushed away from the ruins in the distance. Then a red ray of light rushed up. Ouch, it hurts so much. The dark red dragon grimaced and kept complaining. At that moment he was also dispirited and his head was drooping. There were many cracks on his body and he grimaced in pain. Cough cough. Next to him, Lin Xian also stretched out a hand and pushed away the rocks on his body. At the same time he spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. His injuries were more serious, but fortunately he had the great dragon sword soul to protect his body. In the end he managed to block the pressure of the sage. Damn it, they're not dead. When Zhan Wuhan saw that, his face immediately darkened. He did not expect the two of them to survive. This really surprised him. How did they survive? He was too shocked. One had to know that he was able to survive because he was wearing the invincible armor and had the 6 directions ancient mirror in his hand. As for the other party, their black earth had been sealed, and the sage's hand bone had not helped them. Apart from an ancient sword, there was probably nothing else in it. But how did they survive? Damn it! What exactly is that sword shadow on them? Zhan Wuhan's face was extremely gloomy. He did not suspect that it was the great dragon sword soul. After all, he did not think in that direction at all. Previously, the Golden Lion King had discovered it because Lin Xian had directly simulated many of the war tribe's grand theurgies, causing the Golden Lion King to be suspicious. In the previous battle with Zhan Wuhan, the two of them had directly used their trump cards, so Zhan Wuhan still did not know. Damn it, they're not dead. So what? I can kill them with my own hands. Zhan Wuhan gritted his teeth and crazily swallowed pills again. As a powerhouse of the war tribe, he had a lot of resources in his hands. At this moment he wanted to recover as soon as possible and kill the other party with his own hands. Damn it! That guy is not dead. The dark red divine dragon looked around and immediately discovered Jianghu. It immediately screamed. Lin Xian's face also darkened. This was not good news. Damn it, he's swallowing pills. Chapter 2365. Damn it, he's swallowing pills. Damn it, should I attack now? The dark red dragon swung its tail, wanting to fly over. However, before it could fly, it fell to the ground with a thud. Damn it, my injuries are too serious. Wuji, the little white monkey also lowered its head and laid on Lin Xian's shoulder, unwilling to move. Forget it, let's recover first. Lin Xian took out the remaining pills and swallowed them. Now that the Black Earth had been sealed, he didn't have many pills and treasures left in his possession. Most of them were inside the Black Earth. He could not take them now. He could only use the longevity art to swallow the remaining pills and absorb the surrounding spirit qi. However, his injuries were too serious. Moreover, Jianghu had the magical pills of the battle tribe. Therefore, before long Jianghu stood up, pulled out a long golden saber and walked over. Although he walked unsteadily, the killing intent on his body became more and more intense. Boom. However, after taking 2 steps, an explosion suddenly came from the sky. Immediately after, a ray of light descended from the sky. Damn it, someone's coming. Seeing this, Jianghu immediately stopped in his tracks. His eyes were cold as he looked in front of him in shock. He gripped the 6 directions ancient mirror in his hand tightly, and the golden armor on his body quickly covered him. What a joke. He was seriously injured now. He might not even be able to defeat an almighty. If the other party killed him and took his treasures, he would suffer a great loss. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon also became nervous. They were in the same state. The light in the sky quickly pressed down. It was also a spirit boat. At this moment, there were a few figures standing on it with cold expressions. There were quite a few of them. This scene made Jianghu and Lin Xian frown. Buzz. The spirit boat floated in the air. The people on it glanced at Jianghu, Lin Xian, and the dark red dragon. Then they stared at the Black Earth. Buzz. Among them an elder walked out. With a wave of his hand, the Black Earth floated in the air and flew towards their spirit boat. Damn it, what's going on? Could it be that they wanted to snatch the Black Earth? Seeing this, the dark red divine dragon was enraged. Lin Xian's face also darkened. On the other side, Jianghu also frowned. This was because he had already treated the Black Earth as his spoils of war. Now, someone actually wanted to interfere. This was something he couldn't tolerate. For a moment all 3 of them looked up at the sky. However, the old man in the sky snorted coldly. He actually dared to seal it. He was really courting death. As he spoke, the old man's 5 fingers formed a claw and grabbed forward. Instantly, the 5-element seal was crushed. What? So powerful? Seeing this, the Crimson Divine Dragon, Lin Xian, and Jianghu were shocked. They didn't act rashly because the other party was able to break the 5-element seal with a single grab. This was indeed beyond their expectations. This was especially so for the dark red divine dragon and Jianghu. The 2 of them knew very well how terrifying the 5-element seal was. Who exactly was the other party? Once the 5-element seal was broken, He Tu's voice could be heard. Kid, are you alright? At the same time a figure flew out. The person who came out was naturally Xia Xingqian. However, when the old man saw Xia Xingqian he was also excited. Young lady, I've finally found you. Why are you guys here? Xia Xingqian looked at the old man and the people on the spirit boat behind him and said casually, don't worry. Her big eyes narrowed into crescents. **, they actually know each other. Seeing this, Jianghu's face darkened and he took a few steps back. Lin Xian and the Crimson Divine Dragon heaved a sigh of relief. They could tell that these people were here to look for Xia Xingqian. Thinking of this, they smiled. That's great. Young lady, where did you run off to? The old man asked worriedly. A few youths also walked out of the spirit boat behind them. They stared at Lin Xian and the Crimson Divine Dragon and said coldly, is it these 2 kids? How dare you capture our young lady? You're dead meat. With that said, their bodies emitted a biting cold killing intent. No, it's not. Xia Xingqian said, stop it, it's not them. I was captured by a few big baddies and Big Brother Lin saved me. That kid saved you? Then how did you get sealed? The few of them frowned. That was because the spirit boat from before had a powerful seal placed on it. Even ordinary almighties would not be able to open it. It was all because of that baddie. Xia Xingqian pointed at Jianghu and said, this guy is a baddie. He's the one who sealed the spirit boat. Hearing this, the old man and the youths behind him looked away from Lin Xian and stared at Zhang Wuhan. Soon their pupils constricted. Invincible armor. The youth's eyes burned with passion, but the old man frowned. Who are you? Zhang Wuhan snorted, and the invincible armor on his body shone brightly. At the same time, the six harmonies mirror floated above his head, emitting a sage's aura. Feeling this aura, the youths and the old man all frowned. Damn it, hurry up and protect Miss. They shielded Xia Xingchen behind them. However, at this moment, another figure walked out of the spirit boat. This was an old man with a head full of white hair and beard. He was leaning on a walking stick. He didn't have a terrifying aura, just like an ordinary grandpa next door. However, the moment he came out, the pressure of the sage's aura disappeared instantly. Grandpa, you're here too. Seeing this old man, Xia Xingchen flew over happily. You little girl, you always make people worry. The old man rubbed Xia Xingchen's head lovingly. Then he waved his sleeve and countless runes flashed, completely sealing the sage's hand bone that was still floating in the air. What? Seeing this, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon god were shocked. As for Zhang Wuhan, his pupils constricted. Heavens, who is this person? He sealed the sage's hand bone with a raise of his hand. Needless to say, the other party must have surpassed an almighty and might even be an invincible king. Thinking of this, Zhang Wuhan tensed up as if he was facing a great enemy. However, the old man looked at him and said calmly, "People of the battle tribe, you finally can't hold it in anymore and want to come out? You know my identity." Zhang Wuhan's eyelids twitched because the old man in front of him was too mysterious. However, in the next moment he gritted his teeth and said, "Since you know my identity, there are some things you shouldn't care about. You can take your granddaughter away. I won't care about you. However, this kid has to stay. He killed an almighty prodigy of the battle tribe. I won't let him go." What? Killed an almighty prodigy of the battle tribe. Chapter 2366. Previously, when they looked around, they found that the other party's aura was very weak and he was covered in blood. But now, after hearing what he said, they knew that they had underestimated him. The war tribe was a legendary powerful race that lived for war. The prodigies of the war tribe were definitely terrifying. But he was killed by the other party. It was shocking. Moreover, it seemed that the sage's hand bone above his head was also his. A young man actually had a sage's item. It was indeed shocking. Sensing Zhang Wuhan's killing intent, Lin Xian snorted coldly and waved his hand to recall the sage's hand bone. Then he said, "You want to kill me? I'm afraid you don't have the ability." At this moment, the old man with the walking stick also spoke. "All right, little guy, you should go back," the old man said to Zhang Wuhan. Hearing this, Zhang Wuhan snorted coldly, and a look of displeasure appeared in his eyes. The other party called him a little guy? Although he looked young, his actual age was more than 1,000 years old. How could someone like him be a little guy? However, in the next moment, Zhang Wuhan was stunned, and his eyes were filled with shock. Because the old man continued to speak. "Zhang Lingtian is still alive, right? Send him my regards." "Senior, you are?" Zhang Wuhan was too shocked or even terrified. Because Zhang Lingtian was one of the ancestors of the war tribe. Furthermore, this name was not something that just anyone could know. Apart from the internal members of the war tribe, very few people outside knew about it. However, the person in front of him actually knew about it, and there was even a hint of mockery in his tone. This shocked him greatly. What's going on? Could it be that the old man in front of him knew their ancestor? Zhang Wuhan did not dare to be presumptuous anymore. Coupled with the fact that the other party had sealed the sage's hand bone with a single move. Needless to say, the old man in front of him must be an extremely terrifying person. "Since Senior has spoken, I'll spare him this time," Zhang Wuhan said in a deep voice. He knew that he couldn't succeed this time. Not to mention the old man, the people around him were also very powerful. If they really fought, he wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. After saying that, Zhang Wuhan looked at Lin Xian again. "Kid, you're very lucky this time. I'll spare your life." However, the next time they met, they wouldn't be so lucky. Lin Xian also snorted coldly. "Don't worry, you don't have to hold back because the next time we meet, I will personally kill you." Acting recklessly. Zhang Wuhan's eyes were cold. However, he quickly turned around and left. A pair of golden wings appeared on his back, and Scarless War disappeared. Damn it, that guy finally left. Seeing the other party leave, the dark red dragon heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian's eyes flickered, and he quickly looked towards the elder. "Thank you, Senior, for your help. I'm extremely grateful. Little girl, I should be the one thanking you. If it weren't for you, my granddaughter would have suffered even more. That's right, big brother Lin, thank you so much this time. Kid, why don't we leave? This old man is too scary. My hair stands on end just by standing here. At the side, the dark red dragon felt uncomfortable all over. That was because although the old man had a benevolent appearance and did not emit any aura, he felt that his secret was completely exposed before the old man's eyes. This feeling was extremely unpleasant. Lin Xin also felt the same, let alone the dark red dragon. Although the old man's gaze was gentle, it was boundless. It was as if he could see through her body. He had never encountered such a situation before. Needless to say, the old man must be a super expert. Senior, I still have some matters to attend to. Lin Xin decided to leave. However, Xia Xingchen was a little reluctant. Big brother Lin, don't go. Look, you're injured. You haven't recovered yet. What if that big bad guy is hiding nearby? I'm afraid you'll be in danger then. How about this, you come back with me and I'll treat you well. There's no need for that. Lin Xin shook his head. Go back to where? Peach Blossom Island? That's above the East Sea, even further than Eastern Wilderness. He still had matters to attend to in Zhong State. Little girl, don't worry, we have some manners in Zhong State. You can rest there. The old man seemed to have seen through Lin Xian's thoughts, so he said with a smile. Lin Xian's face was a little pale. The feeling of being seen through at a glance was really terrible. However, the old man's smile deepened. He stared at Lin Xian and the dark red dragon and nodded slightly. He seemed to be very satisfied. Kid, don't be unappreciative. It's your fortune to be chosen by our master. The few young men beside him said coldly. Their eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. What kind of joke is this? This kid actually wants to refuse? Doesn't he know who his master is? To be honest, Lin Xian really didn't know. If you guys don't be rude to big brother Lin. Xia Xingchen snorted. The few young men quickly responded, yes miss, we were wrong. The old man in front of them smiled. My name is Xia Jiuyo. You can call me Elder Xia or Grandpa Xia like Xingchen. Hearing this, the old man and the few young men's eyelids twitched. What's going on? Why is our master acting like this? Heavens! Who is this young man in front of us? How can he be so valued by our master? Lin Xian scratched his head and said, then I'll call you Elder Xia. At the side, the dark red dragon was also extremely shocked. Xia Jiuyo, where have I heard this name before? He was very confused because he felt like he had heard this name before. However, he couldn't recall it at the moment. Alright, I'll disturb you then. Lin Xian also felt that it wasn't good to delay any longer. Therefore, he decided to leave with the other party. After all, Xia Xingchen was right. Who knew if Zhan Wuhan had left? If Zhan Wuhan was hiding here, then they would really be in danger. Then the group boarded the spirit boat, turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. The spirit boat flew at an extremely fast speed. Lin Xian, the dark red dragon, and Snow White Little Ho stayed in the room. They were quickly recovering their bodies. After all, the previous battle had consumed too much of their energy. Especially Lin Xian, who had suffered serious internal injuries. Even if he had treasures, he probably wouldn't be able to recover in a short time. He had no choice. He had used the Great Dragon Sword Soul multiple times, unlocked the third level of the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword's power, and even unlocked the seal on the Sage's hand bone. Every single one of them was a serious blow to his body. If it wasn't for his strong martial arts foundation and the fact that he had consumed a lot of treasures, he would have been dead by now. The dark red dragon said softly as he swallowed the treasures. Kid, be careful. That old man is too scary. Chapter 2367. Lin Xian's eyelids twitched. Then he lowered his voice and asked, what realm do you think he has reached? I don't know, but ever since I broke the seal, there are only two people who can give me this feeling. One is him, and the other is that old drunkard who used to be by your side. You're talking about Wine Lord? Lin Xian was shocked. He had seen how mysterious and terrifying Wine Lord was. Moreover, Wine Lord was the owner of the devouring sword. He could be said to be a peerless expert. Lin Xian didn't expect the dark red dragon to have such a high opinion of this old man. Most likely the other party must be a terrifying peerless expert. Fortunately, the only thing that made Lin Xian relax was that the other party hadn't shown any hostility, nor had they tried to pry into their treasures. In fact, the old man didn't even look at the sage's hand bone. Even so, Lin Xian didn't plan to expose the secret of the Dragon Sword Soul and the Tianji godly eyes. After all, these two items were treasures of heaven and earth. Even an invincible expert would be tempted by them. Therefore it was best not to expose them. Just as he was thinking, the door opened. Xia Xingchen ran in. Big brother Lin. Xingchen, why are you here? Lin Xian smiled and stood up. Xia Xingchen, on the other hand, carried a box and skipped into the room. Grandpa said that your injuries were too serious, so he asked me to bring you some medicine. Then Xia Xingchen opened the box in her arms. The dark red dragon was a little disdainful at first because there were many treasures in the black earth. These were all things that they had snatched from the hands of powerful experts. However, when he saw what was in the box, he was stunned and screamed. What's wrong with you? Lin Xian was confused. The dark red dragon pointed at the item in the box and said excitedly, Heavens, this is the Supreme Heavenly Vitality Ointment. This is the 9-Sun Soul Refining Pill. Damn, these are all good treasures. The dark red divine dragon was too shocked because these were all legendary spiritual herbs. You know these things? Are they magical? Lin Xian was puzzled. He had never heard of these people before. The dark red divine dragon snatched the box over and said, Of course I recognize it. This is the highest heaven essence ointment. No matter how severe your injuries are, you'll recover immediately after applying it. And this, the Jianghu spirit refining pill, was even more miraculous. Just one pill could heal an internal injury. Brat, you're so heavily injured now. I reckon that even with the pills in our hands, you'll still need a long time to recover. But now if you consume these two, you can instantly return to your peak. What? So magical? Lin Xian was also shocked. He didn't expect the ointment Xia Xingchen was hugging to have such a miraculous effect. At the side, Xia Xingchen was amazed. Wow, Xiaolong, you know so much. Hee little Xingchen, you don't have any more of this medicine. Give us some more. The dark red divine dragon walked over and grinned as it ate. Although what was in the box was enough for them, the dark red dragon god wanted to collect some. If he suffered any injuries in the future, it would be easier for him to recover. Xia Xingchen pouted and said, No, Grandpa said that the dosage is more than enough for you guys. Damn, is your grandpa an old monster? How can he calculate everything so accurately? The dark red dragon god complained. Xia Xingchen said, Don't talk about my grandpa like that. Fine. I won't say it. The little girl is angry. The dark red dragon god shrugged and began to apply the ointment. He consumed the Jianghu spirit refining pill. Lin Xian also applied the highest heaven essence ointment on his body. Instantly, he felt a cool and refreshing aura hit him in the face. All the bones and muscles in his body were instantly restored. How magical! Lin Xian was shocked. Beside him, the cracks on the dark red dragon god's body were also repaired. Seeing this magical ointment, Lin Xian consumed the Jianghu spirit refining pill again. Instantly, the medicinal liquid turned into a warm energy that circled around his body. Big brother Lin, you should rest first. When the spirit boat lands, I'll come and play with you again. Xia Xingchen left happily. After closing the door, Lin Xian continued to hover. The art of longevity circulated in his body and absorbed the medicinal power of the Jianghu spirit refining pill. While Lin Xian was recovering, on the other side, there was a huge uproar in the Ninli dynasty. When the people in the nearby city saw the golden light disappear, the terrifying energy also gradually dissipated. These people couldn't help but go to investigate. When they saw it, they were scared out of their wits. The area within a radius of 500,000 miles was destroyed beyond recognition. The ground was filled with corpses. Blood gathered into a river and surged in the air for a long time. Heavens! How many experts had died? They didn't know because the aura of each and every one of those who died shocked them to the core. There were probably quite a number of peerless almighties. There were even more ordinary supreme experts. These people's faces changed drastically. What happened? Why did so many experts die? How terrifying. Someone saw the flying snake that was split in half on the ground. The corpse that was nearly 1,000 meters long lay there. It smashed the ground. What a terrifying demonic aura. This should be the flying snake. Isn't this the demonic beast of the Teng family? Why is it here? Heavens, could it be that the martial artists of the Teng family were killed here? These people should be from the city lord mansion of Qianshan City. Someone was shocked. These were all powerhouses of the big families. Exclamations sounded one after another. In the end, someone screamed that the people of the Tai dynasty were also killed here. Their scalps went numb in disbelief. Who was it that killed so many powerhouses? The news spread like a storm, and the entire Ninli dynasty was in an uproar. Teng Jiazhen was shocked and couldn't believe it. The city lord mansion of Qianshan City was even more terrified. The other major clans were all stunned as well. Others didn't know what was going on, but they knew. This time they had the city lord mansion of Qianshan City, the Ting family, and the Tai dynasty. They had joined forces with the powerhouses of dozens of big families to kill Lin Xian. Before this, they didn't take it to heart at all. Because with such a team, no one would be able to escape, let alone a young boy. However, the result was far beyond their expectations. They were all killed. The powerhouses of dozens of families and the powerhouses of the three big families were all killed. None of them returned alive. Was this something that a young boy could do? They couldn't believe it. Perhaps even a peerless mighty figure couldn't do it, unless an invincible king made a move. Could it be that there was an invincible king behind that young boy? These people discussed animatedly, not daring to believe it. However, when the news spread to the Tai dynasty, the imperial palace was shocked. Especially the people on the first prince's side, they were stunned and couldn't believe it. What was going on? All the people they sent were killed? Even General Xianying was killed? Oh, damn it. This was impossible. The empress roared angrily, causing everyone to tremble and kneel on the ground. Chapter 2368. Even General Xianying was killed? Oh, damn it. This was impossible. The empress roared angrily. Everyone trembled in fear and knelt on the ground. These people were indeed afraid because General Xianying was the empress's younger brother. How could the empress accept his death? Who was it? Damn it. Who was the one who did it? Just who was standing behind that kid? The empress roared crazily. To be honest, she could not believe it. The people she had sent out this time were all elites. More importantly, the war tribe's powerhouse, Jianghu, had also been dispatched. With Jianghu taking action, no matter how strong the enemy was, they would not be a match for him. However, General Xianying was killed. The war tribe's powerhouse, Jianghu, was nowhere to be found. This made her extremely shocked. Do a thorough investigation. Send out 1,000,000 troops. I must capture that kid and tear him into pieces. The news could not be hidden. The empress and the first prince were shocked and furious. Meanwhile, there was an uproar elsewhere. Those who supported the first prince had gloomy expressions. Meanwhile, the eighth prince, who was the current crown prince, laughed heartily. The princes and elders who supported him were also very surprised. The reason for that was because this news was simply too shocking. They had seen Lin Xian before. He was once the eighth prince. Later on, when he was hunted down, they had secretly helped him. But who would have thought that the other party would make such a big news? Even General Xianying had been killed. Ah, I knew that Brother Lin would be fine. The crown prince was very happy. The surrounding elders were also astonished. How did that kid do it? It was definitely not him. There must be a mysterious force behind him. But I heard that the war tribe's powerhouse, Jianghu, also went with him. He could not do anything to the other party. Heavens, could the force behind him be able to fight against the war tribe? Many people sucked in a cold breath. But no matter what, it was good news for them. On the other side, Lin Xian and the others were on a spirit boat, flying quickly. After flying for a few days, the spirit boat slowed down and descended. They had arrived. Lin Xian, the Crimson Divine Dragon, and the others also stood up when they sensed this. Before long, the spirit boat landed. Lin Xian opened the hatch and the group walked down. In front of him stood a towering mountain surrounded by clouds. Silver waterfalls hung from the mountain peaks in the distance, as if it was the Milky Way. He was surrounded by grasslands and spirit gardens in the distance. There were even a few spirit springs in the surroundings. Many rare beasts were also roaming around here. This place was simply like a paradise on earth. Big Brother Lin, we are here. This is the place. Xia Xingqian also ran over and tugged on Lin Xian's arm. Next, Lin Xian and the others entered the fairyland ahead. They arrived at Qingsha Peak. The scenery there was beautiful and there was a large waterfall below his feet. It was like an enormous silver dragon, releasing thunderous sounds. While Xia Xingqian played with Lin Xian, Xia Jiuyo and the others entered the depths of the wonderland. Master, why did you bring him here? The old man behind him was puzzled. Although the little princess was indebted to him, it would have been enough to give him some cultivation technique manuals or treasures. There was no need to bring him here. We don't even know his identity. If he exits in the future and reveals our location, I'm afraid we will be in trouble. The old servant was very worried. However, Xia Jiuyo slowly turned around after hearing that. You don't know his identity, but I do. Master, could it be that this kid really has some background? After waiting for so many years, he is finally here. Xia Jiuyo's eyes lit up. I don't have much time left. It's time to make some arrangements. What? Master. Hearing this, the old man immediately panicked. Master, nothing will happen to you. You will definitely succeed. However, Xiaojuyo shook his head. I know my own situation very well. That young man is incredible. Although he is young, his future is limitless. Is he really that powerful? Looks like I'm a little lacking compared to those saints and princes. He is not inferior. Believe me, it won't be long before he completely surpasses those people. Xiaojuyo smiled. After all, he possessed the Great Dragon Sword Soul. What? The Great Dragon Sword Soul? You mean that the Great Dragon Sword Soul with the strongest attack is in the hands of that kid? The old servant was shocked and in disbelief. He did not expect that the kid would have such a trump card. That's right, it was the Great Dragon Sword Soul with the strongest attack. Xiaojuyo smiled and nodded. The old servant was still a little worried. Even if he has enough talent and opportunities, we still don't know his character. Isn't it a little too rash to take him in so hastily? There is no need to test him. This is someone recommended by an old friend. There is nothing wrong with the person he recommended. Xiaojuyo said. Moreover, I am not in a good state now. I am afraid that I can't continue to host. How about this? I plan to let him take over my position. What? Take over your position? This time, the old servant was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. This news was even more shocking than when he heard about the Great Dragon Sword Soul. That was because the old man's identity was terrifying. Not to mention his strength, the matter that he was hosting now was enough to rule the entire Middle State continent. But now the old man wanted to let a kid take over. This was unbelievable. Go and inform them that I have something to announce. Yes. The old servant hurriedly left. However, he was extremely shocked because he knew that something extremely big was about to happen. After the old servant left, Xiaojuyo's eyes shone with a cold light. His eyes were as deep as the universe. Soon, a super teleportation formation appeared under his feet. Runes flickered as he was teleported away. Xiaojuyo appeared in the ancient hall. He walked slowly with his walking stick. Hearing the sound of footsteps, everyone in the hall turned their heads. There were 7 people standing in the hall. One of them was the old servant from before, while the other 6 were peerless experts. Some of them were old, some were young, and some were middle-aged. However, all of them had an unusually strong aura. They were unbelievably strong. Take a seat. Xiaojuyo walked to the front and sat down. He waved his hand and said, Phew. Only then did the 6 people dare to sit down. As for the old servant, he stood in front of Xiaojuyo with his hands hanging down in a very respectful manner. I called you here today because I have something to announce. Chapter 2369. I called you all here today because I have something to announce. Hearing that there was something to announce, the 6 of them straightened their bodies. But in the next moment they were stunned. Because Xiaojuyo said, I plan to give up my current position. What? The 6 of them felt as if they were struck by lightning. Their reaction was the same as the old servant from before. Why did Palace Master do this? Yes, who else can take over your position? The 6 of them were shocked. Because this old man's status was too terrifying. No one could take over. They had already found a good candidate. Old Hua. Xiaojuyo shouted. The old servant beside him stood up. He waved his sleeve and runes flickered in the sky, condensing into a young appearance. It was Lin Xian's phantom. Then the old servant said. His name was Lin Xian. He had saved the little princess and was currently resting on Qingxia Peak. What, let him take over? The 6 of them looked at the young figure in the sky in shock. What kind of joke was this? Letting a brat take over the position of Palace Master? They didn't dare to believe it. They even felt like they were dreaming. Xiaojuyo said, Why? You don't believe my judgment? No. These people hurriedly shook their heads. It's just that it's too sudden. We can't accept it for a while. Even if we can't accept it, we have to accept it. Xiaojuyo's voice became low, carrying a supreme pressure. From today onwards, this young man will be the palace master of our immortal palace. I won't interfere in Immortal Palace's matters in the future. I have to prepare for the immemorial war. Immemorial war. Everyone was shocked again. Then the 6 of them raised their heads. The 10,000 ancient races were about to appear. Soon, the nest of 10,000 dragons had been moving more and more frequently recently. They would probably appear soon. When the nest of 10,000 dragons appeared, the other 10,000 ancient races would probably appear as well. At that time, the 5 continents would definitely be filled with flames of war. It was still unknown whether or not the human race could withstand it. Therefore, you must assist that young man well. Yes, we know. The 6 of them stood up and knelt on one knee. Their expressions were very solemn. "All right, you may leave." Xia Juyo waved his hand. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 6 of them quickly left. "Oldhua," Xia Juyo said, "bring that kid over." Over here, Lin Xian was playing with Xia Juyo on Qingsha Peak. Suddenly, a white cloud descended from the sky and turned into an old servant. "Grandpa Hua, why are you here?" Xia Xingqian asked curiously. The old servant smiled and said, "Master has some matters to discuss with Sir Lin." "Please, Sir Lin." "Looking for me?" Lin Xian was surprised, but he still followed the old servant. Xia Xingqian sighed. "Big brother Lin has left. Delong Xiaobai, you two can play with me." The little white monkey nodded happily, but the dark red dragon was depressed. When did it become someone else's pet? Up ahead, the old servant led the way. He and Lin Xian flew into the distance, clouds rising beneath their feet. "Senior, why is Elder Xia looking for me?" Lin Xian asked doubtfully. "Young Master Lin, when you arrive you will naturally know," the old servant said indifferently. "All right then." Lin Xian didn't ask any more questions, but he was extremely puzzled. This was also why he did not know about the conversation between the old servant and Xia Juyo. Otherwise he would have been shocked. Because Xia Juyo had seen through his great dragon sword soul in an instant. This was Lin Xian's biggest secret. The two of them flew and soon landed. However, there was no one around. The old servant led Lin Xian and quickly activated an array. Seeing the surrounding runes flickering, Lin Xian was shocked. This was because he realized that this was actually a super teleportation array. This kind of super teleportation array could teleport people very far away, even across countries. It seemed that this fairyland-like place was not the main residence of Xia Juyo. Could it be that they were teleported to Peach Blossom Island? Lin Xian was puzzled because Xia Xingqian had said that her family lived on Peach Blossom Island and that she had accidentally come to Jianghu when she came out to play. She probably accidentally activated the super teleportation array and was teleported here. Otherwise, there was no other way to go from Eastern Wilderness to Jianghu in such a short time. When the light flickered and disappeared again, Lin Xian opened his eyes. His surroundings had changed. There were ancient buildings all around, and there was a majestic palace in front of him that was filled with vicissitudes of life. Lin Xian did not know whether it was Peach Blossom Island or not, but he knew that it was definitely not Qingsha Peak. Lin Xian followed behind the old servant and the two of them walked towards the palace. Soon the old servant opened the door. "Young Master Lin, please." Lin Xian nodded and strode in. The old servant followed beside him. When the two of them reached the center of the palace, the old servant said respectfully, "Master, young Master Lin has brought you here. You may leave and close the door." "Yes." The old servant left and closed the door. The light in the palace suddenly dimmed, leaving only Lin Xian and Xia Juyo. "May I know why Senior is looking for me?" Lin Xian took a deep breath. "How much do you know about Jianghu?" Xia Juyo asked. Hearing this question, Lin Xian was puzzled. He did not know what this had to do with him. However, he still thought about it and said, "I don't know much. I only know that the Jianghu continent is a continent in the true spirit world. There are 9 empires here, and they are the overlords of this continent. I'm not from the Jianghu continent, so I don't know the details." Hearing this, Xia Juyo nodded. Yes, the 9 empires dominated a region and occupied a large area of the Jianghu continent. There were even great emperors in a few of them. But do you know that they are not the real overlords? Not the real overlords? Then who are they? Lin Xian was surprised. Xia Juyo said. Countless years ago, there were no 9 empires in the Jianghu continent. There was only one empire. It was not an empire but an immortal empire. An immortal empire. Lin Xian was shocked. Yes, the Yuhua Immortal Empire. They unified the entire Jianghu continent. At that time they were extremely powerful. They unified the entire Jianghu continent. Lin Xian was too shocked because the Jianghu continent was vast and boundless. He did not know how vast it was. Now, even if these empires were powerful, they only occupied a part of it. Even if the 9 empires combined, they could not occupy the entire Jianghu continent. But before that, there was actually a country that unified the Jianghu continent. How powerful was that country? The Yuhua Immortal Empire. Lin Xian muttered. Then he raised his head and asked, "Then why is this empire gone?" It was destroyed. Even a powerful empire could not withstand the power of time. The Yuhua Immortal Empire made a shocking decision back then, but after it failed, it fell apart. The ancestors of the 9 empires were split from the Yuhua Immortal Empire. Even many families and forces in the Jianghu continent were once members of the Yuhua Immortal Empire. But in the end they each established their own forces, empires and countries. Chapter 2370. A portion of it remained in the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty's name. However, they were no longer called the Immortal Dynasty, but changed to another name. What was it called? Lin Xian asked. Immortal Palace. Xia Juyo said in a deep voice. Because the vast territory was long gone, only a dilapidated palace was left, so it naturally couldn't be called the Immortal Dynasty, but Immortal Palace. Immortal Palace. Lin Xian was surprised. Then he looked in all directions. He always felt that the other party seemed to have something that he didn't say. Regardless of whether it was the Immortal Dynasty or Immortal Palace, it was completely different from the current dynasty. It had the word, immortal, in it. One had to know that everyone cultivated to become an immortal, but whether there were immortals in the world or not, no one knew. Even the great emperors didn't know. It could be said that whether immortals existed or not was the greatest mystery. But now, someone actually used the word, immortal, to name a country and a faction. One could imagine how ambitious the other party was. Moreover, what made Lin Xian even more puzzled was why the other party would say such a thing. What did it have to do with him? Suddenly his eyelids twitched. Could it be that the other party was from Immortal Palace? Senior, could it be? You guessed right, I am indeed from Immortal Palace. Moreover, I am the Palace Master of Immortal Palace. Xia Juyo said in a deep voice. After Lin Xian heard this, he felt like he was struck by lightning. What? Immortal Palace's Palace Master. He had guessed that this old man was from Immortal Palace, but he didn't expect that the other party's identity was even more noble than he imagined. Immortal Palace's Palace Master. This was definitely an extremely terrifying existence, not weaker than the emperors of the 9 great dynasties. However, Xia Juyo said that he didn't need to be surprised because soon he wouldn't be the Palace Master of Immortal Palace? Wouldn't be the Palace Master of Immortal Palace? What did that mean? Lin Xian was even more puzzled. Because I plan to pass the position of Immortal Palace's Palace Master to you. What? Pass it to me? Lin Xian was dumbfounded. He didn't dare to believe it. What was going on? Immortal Palace had inherited the essence of the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. It was an extremely terrifying existence. Now, the other party actually said that he would pass the position of Immortal Palace Master to him? What kind of joke was this? Lin Xian couldn't believe it. He even suspected that the other party was joking. Senior, this joke isn't funny. Xia Juyo stood up and said with a smile. What? Do you think I'm joking? This is the first time I've met Senior, right? Why would Senior give me such an important position? Lin Xian shook his head. He didn't believe it. Just because I saved Xia Xingchen? Lin Xian felt that it was impossible. Even if he had saved Xia Xingchen, if the other party wanted to repay him, he would at most give him some treasures. But to give him the position of Immortal Palace Hall Master, what was going on? Could it be that there was some kind of conspiracy going on? Lin Xian couldn't understand. But in the next moment his pupils shrank. He stood there in a daze. Xia Juyo said. Because you are very special. You have a boundless future. You have the great dragon sword spirit with unparalleled combat prowess. Lin Xian's pupils shrank to the size of needles. He was too shocked. How did the other party know that he had the great dragon sword soul? Or could it be that the other party had already set their sights on his dragon sword spirit? He didn't know. But at this moment he was extremely nervous. The great dragon sword spirit in his body could erupt at any time. Lin Xian even decided to use the black earth at all costs. Although he knew that all of this wouldn't have much effect in front of the other party. But he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Don't be nervous, I don't have any ill intentions towards you. Seeing Lin Xian's nervous face, Xia Juyo smiled and sat down again. Actually, from the beginning I knew that you had the great dragon sword spirit. I even knew it before I saw you. What's going on? How did you know that I have the great dragon sword spirit without seeing me? What's going on? Could it be that the other party had the ability to predict the unknown? Lin Xian was even more puzzled. Xia Juyo smiled. Let me show you this and you'll understand. Xia Juyo waved his hand. Suddenly, countless rays of light condensed in the sky, forming a figure. It was a middle-aged man. He stood on a flying sword, his long hair fluttering in the wind. There was stubble on his handsome face and a wine pot hung on his waist. Wine Lord. Seeing this figure, Lin Xian immediately exclaimed. That's right, this figure was Wine Lord. Of course, it wasn't his actual body but a spiritual imprint. When Lord Alcohol appeared, he looked down and said with a smile, "Little guy, we meet again. You've grown faster than I imagined. Wine Lord, where are you? I miss you so much." Lin Xian's eyes were wet. After all, this was his first master. "I have important things to do now, so we can't meet for the time being. But don't worry, we'll meet again one day," Wine Lord said with a smile. Then he turned and pointed at Xiaojiuyo. "This is an old friend of mine. Trust him, he won't harm you. You've accepted the Immortal Palace and made it shine. I hope that one day we can fight side by side." The mental imprint wasn't long, so it didn't take long for Lord Alcohol's figure to slowly disappear. Lin Xian said quickly, "Wine Lord, don't worry, I'll work hard to improve myself. One day I'll stand side by side with you and look down on this land." "Ah, good, I'll wait for you." Lord Alcohol laughed loudly as he completely transformed into a beam of light and disappeared. Xiaojiuyo said again, "How is it, little guy? Now you know that I don't have any ill intentions towards you. I was rude before." Lin Xian was extremely respectful towards Xiaojiuyo, because this was Grandpa Jio's friend. "Old Xia, how did you and Grandpa Jio meet? Can you tell me about Wine Lord's past?" "We've known each other for a long time," Xiaojiuyo said slowly. He couldn't remember exactly when they met. "As for his past, I'll tell you when I have the chance in the future. Your mission isn't easy now. Kid, are you willing to take over the Immortal Palace and become its master?" "Yes." Lin Xian took a deep breath. Since even Wine Lord said so, he naturally had to accept. Although he didn't know what he would face in the future, he wouldn't be afraid no matter what it was. "Good." Seeing Lin Xian nod, Xiaojiuyo heaved a sigh of relief. He stroked his beard and smiled. "Very good, from now on, you're the master of Immortal Palace." "Senior, what do I need to do?" Lin Xian asked. "I won't care about the details. After all, you'll be the master of Immortal Palace in the future. But no matter what you do, you can't deviate from the goal of Immortal Palace." Xiaojiuyo's eyes became extremely deep. A supreme aura rose from his body. "Our Immortal Palace exists to restore the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. Actually, the ultimate goal of the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty was to ascend and become an immortal, so becoming an immortal is also our goal. Becoming an immortal. Restoring the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty." Lin Xian was shocked. This wasn't a simple matter. It wasn't as simple as becoming a great emperor. One had to know that the central continent had long been divided by the 9 great empires. If one wanted to establish a supreme country, it was tantamount to starting a war with the 9 great empires. Just how much strength and courage did one need to be able to do this? Chapter 2371. Just how much strength and courage did one need to be able to do this? Moreover, the other goal was even more shocking. Becoming an immortal. What an elusive thing. Even becoming a great emperor might not be possible. However, since he had already agreed to do it and decided to do it, Lin Xian swore that he would advance towards these goals no matter what. After all, becoming a great emperor was his ultimate goal. Now the two didn't conflict. In fact, becoming the master of Immortal Palace could provide him with great help on his path to becoming a great emperor. After all, Immortal Palace had endless resources for him to enjoy. From now on, he would no longer have to be a rogue cultivator like before. Lin Xian knew how important it was to have a powerful faction as a foundation. Looking at those princes, the Holy Sun knew that it was hundreds of times easier for them to cultivate than him. But now, Lin Xian finally had a powerful faction as a foundation. In addition, with the Great Dragon Sword Soul as a foundation, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds in the future. He just had to remember these 2 goals. Of course, there was another one, and that was to protect the human race. Protect the human race? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. What did that mean? If we want to restore the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty, we will definitely have to contend with the other great factions. Battles with the 9 great dynasties are inevitable. In the future, in order to compete for resources, we will even have to fight with those peerless great sects and peerless holy lands. But these are all battles between the human race. However, the human race isn't the only one on the entire continent. The 10,000 ancient races are incomparably powerful. Although they haven't appeared yet, it doesn't mean that they have disappeared. Now that the nest of 10,000 dragons is about to make a move, once it appears, the other ancient races will probably appear one after another. At that time, they would definitely start a conflict with all the human forces. No matter how we fight, we won't allow other races to rule this land. 10,000 ancient races. Lin Xian was shocked. This wasn't the first time he had heard of this name. What shocked him even more was that the nest of 10,000 dragons was about to make a move. Could it be that it was about to appear soon? As for the specifics, you can ask the other elders in Immortal Palace in the future, Xia Juyo said. However, Lin Xian still had a doubt. He asked, Elder Xia, if you let me become Immortal Palace's master just like this, will the others be convinced? He indeed had this worry. That was Immortal Palace. There might be countless experts inside, geniuses emerging in large numbers. Letting a brat like him, moreover someone who appeared out of nowhere, become Immortal Palace's lord, those people would definitely not accept this. With me around, they won't be able to rebel, but they definitely won't be too convinced. How to convince them is up to you. This old man can't help you with everything. However, you have to promise me something. Senior, please speak your mind. Junior will definitely do it. This old man has lived for too long and I don't have much lifespan left. I don't know how long I can last. Therefore, I hope that you can help me take good care of Xingqian. You must not let her come to any harm. Don't worry, Senior, I'll definitely protect Xingqian like a younger sister. You just have to protect her well, but I don't care if she's like my sister. Hearing this, Lin Xian's mouth twitched. What was the meaning of this? Hearing this, the other party seemed to have other intentions. However, Lin Xian already had Murong Qingqing, Shen Jingqiu, and Zhao Shui. Xia Juyo shook his head. This old man doesn't care about the matters of you youngsters. I'm handing Immortal Palace and Xingqian to you so you can't make any mistakes. Don't worry, old Xia, this kid will definitely do his best. Lin Xian cupped his fists. However, he asked curiously, Senior, where are you going? There are still many things for me to do. The 10,000 ancient races are restless. I have to think of a way to intimidate them. Little guy, quickly grow up. We need you. The great dragon sword's power far surpasses your imagination. Only when you truly grow up can you truly help us. Mitchum. Lin Xian nodded. He knew that today's matter was only the tip of the iceberg. There were probably even bigger matters and secrets that the other party didn't mention. It wasn't that the other party was intentionally hiding things from him, but that he couldn't help with his current strength. Telling him would only add to his worries. When his strength reached that level, he would naturally know those things. This is the Immortal Palace seal, a symbol of status. You have to keep it well and not lose it. Xia Juyo took out a bronze square seal and handed it to Lin Xian. Lin Xian received it carefully and then took a deep breath. This Immortal Palace seal was too mysterious. Although it was only a palm-sized bronze square seal, the power it contained made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. Next, he gave an order to the entire Immortal Palace, stating that the position would be passed to Lin Xian. Logically speaking, such a huge matter would definitely have a huge ceremony. However, Xia Juyo didn't want to cause such a huge commotion. After all, the identity of Immortal Palace was a secret to begin with. Moreover, he did have more important things to do. Finally, Xia Juyo stood up and said in a deep voice, I'll give you another person. He can protect your safety. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask him. Xing Tian, come out. At the side of the hall, the space cracked open and a figure walked out. It was a tall figure with a youthful face. His true age was unknown. However, he had a heavy aura that made it hard for others to breathe. Xing Tian, he will be the master of Immortal Palace in the future. You have to protect him well. You have to listen to any orders he gives. Yes. Xing Tian knelt down on one knee and was very respectful. Then he stood up and looked at Lin Xian, bowing slightly. Young master. No need to be so polite. Lin Xian quickly waved his hand and looked at the other party. Xing Tian was a very tall man. His bronze muscles were like a dragon. The power and pressure he gave off wasn't any weaker than Zhang Wuhan's. Needless to say, he was definitely an exceptional expert. With such an exceptional expert protecting him, Lin Xian was very assured. Lin Xian, make your preparations. 3 days later, meet the people of Immortal Palace. I'll give the order now. Xia Juyo said in a deep voice. Yes. Lin Xian left and Xing Tian also left at the same time. Sure enough, not long after Lin Xian left, Xia Juyo issued an order that spread throughout the entire Immortal Palace. Their Immortal Palace's influence was very wide and spread throughout the entire central state. Not only that, but they also had bases in eastern wilderness and southern border. Of course, everything was in the dark. Ordinary people didn't even know that there was such a powerful organization like Immortal Palace in this world. However, when the members of Immortal Palace received the news, they were all stunned. Chapter 2372. What? Immortal Palace Master is giving up his position to a young man? Heavens, did you make a mistake? What's going on? Is Immortal Palace going to change? Everyone was shocked. This was especially true for those elders who were in an uproar. Many of them shouted angrily. What right does a kid have to inherit the position of Immortal Palace Master? Moreover, it's a kid of unknown origin. That's right, he's not even a member of Immortal Palace. What right does he have? These people were really angry. Those young geniuses were also very unconvinced. Even if a young man was to be chosen, it should be from them. An outsider, what's the meaning of this? These people argued fiercely. None of them were convinced. On the other side, Lin Xian brought Xing Tian back to the Green Hornet, Mississippi. When Xing Tian saw Xia Xingchen, he bowed slightly. Xia Xingchen was also surprised. Brother Xing Tian, why are you here? By the way, Brother Lin, what did Grandpa say to you? Your grandpa passed the position of Immortal Palace Master to me. Lin Xian said helplessly. What? Is this true? Xia Xingchen's eyes widened in disbelief. Her cherry lips formed an O shape. But then she clapped her hands happily. That's great, Brother Lin. I was still thinking about what to do when you leave. Now that you've become the Immortal Palace Master, you can play with me often. Hearing this, Lin Xian broke out in cold sweat. This little girl's thinking is really different from ordinary people. At the side, the dark red divine dragon was also confused. Kid, what's going on? What Immortal Palace Master? Thus, Lin Xian gave a simple account of what had happened. When the dark red dragon heard that Lin Xian's Palace Master was the Immortal Palace's Palace Master, it was shocked. When he heard that the Immortal Palace Master was inextricably linked to the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty, he screamed and jumped up. What the fuck? Kid, you've become the Immortal Palace Master? You know? Lin Xian asked. The dark red divine dragon swallowed his saliva. Of course, how could he not know such a famous organization? Although it was no longer the real Yuhua Immortal Dynasty, it was still a huge monster. They weren't any weaker than the Peerless Holy Grounds and Peerless Great Sections. Furthermore, it was extremely mysterious. It could be said that it was comparable to heaven and hell. Brat, now that you've become a palace master, you're going to be rich in the future. Haha, I'm going to be rich in the future. The dark red dragon god was very excited. With his relationship with Lin Xian, he was definitely going to be rich. However, Lin Xian shook his head. Don't be so happy. I'm afraid it won't be easy to become a palace master like this. That's true. The dark red divine dragon stopped jumping around. Then he frowned and said, if I hand over such a huge organization to you, the experts inside will definitely not be convinced. Kid, what did that old man say? Elder Xia said that other than the two main goals, he wouldn't care about anything else and would leave everything to me. He didn't care? The dark red divine dragon was stupefied. This elder really was bold, truly not scared that Immortal Palace would suffer internal strife and split apart. No one dared to split. Right at this moment, Xing Tian spoke coldly. Alright, no one dared to split up, but what if those elders deliberately made things difficult for them? That old man didn't even show up? Lin Xian shook his head. They could only rely on themselves in the future. What the fuck, how was this supposed to be fun? The dark red divine dragon felt a headache coming. Although joining Immortal Palace would allow them to enjoy endless treasures, the current situation wasn't good enough. Both of them didn't have any foundation. If they were to join out of nowhere, even if they became Immortal Palace's palace masters, those people wouldn't listen to them willingly. If they were to do something behind their backs, it would be difficult to manage them in the future. Xing Tian, what would happen next? Lin Xian asked. There would be a simple ceremony. Although it wouldn't be that grand, it was still the handover of the palace master's position. Those elders would still come. How many elders would there be? Lin Xian asked. Those that were too far away wouldn't come. After all, they all had their own missions. There were probably a few hundred of them nearby. There would probably be even more young geniuses. In addition to the others, there would probably be a few thousand people. Those who would come were all elites. Normal members wouldn't be able to come at all. A few thousand people was already a lot. Lin Xian felt a headache coming. He was afraid that those people would definitely make things difficult for him during this ceremony. However, he wasn't afraid. Anyway, the position of palace master was handed to him personally by Xia Jiuyo. Those old guys wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous. As for the younger generation, he wasn't afraid at all. Since he was going to take over, Lin Xian wouldn't be lenient. He wanted to build an immortal palace that belonged to him. 3 days later? I'm looking forward to it. For the next 2 days, Lin Xian didn't come out. He cultivated silently and adjusted his body to the peak. He knew that there would definitely be people who were unhappy with the handover ceremony. Only by adjusting his combat strength to the peak would he be able to make a move. Fortunately, with the 2 spiritual liquids, his body had already recovered. Therefore, after 2 days of adjustment he was completely at the peak. The ceremony wasn't held here. It was somewhere else. However, there was a super teleportation array on Qingxia Peak. The group quickly used the super teleportation array and left this place. Light flickered. When Lin Xian and the others came out, they frowned, because they realized that the ceremony wasn't as simple as the legend said. In Lin Xian's opinion, the handover ceremony was probably just to announce orders and worship the heavens and earth. However, he realized that it was far more complicated than that. In front of them were countless palaces that looked like stars. In front of these palaces there was a vast plaza. The plaza was filled with people, forming a dense black mass. Their expressions were solemn and their auras were strong. They were like 100,000 mountains that pressed down in front of them, making it hard for them to breathe. The entire void was distorted. These people stood in the east, and north of them was an ancient altar. It was very large and pitch black like black jade. There were 4 heavenly pillars around the altar that emitted a desolate aura. The 4 pillars were carved with the 4 divine beasts: azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. Not only that, the altar was even more desolate, as if it wasn't a dead object but a living thing. On the ancient altar, countless experts were gathered together. The atmosphere was particularly solemn. Although those experts' auras were solemn, they were quiet and didn't make a sound. Lin Xian and the others came together and felt the solemn atmosphere. They immediately frowned. Xing Tian was also very surprised. He didn't expect the ceremony to be so grand. "Young master, be careful." Xing Tian reminded him softly from behind. The situation was a little unexpected. Hearing that, Lin Xian nodded. However, he wasn't afraid. Chapter 2373. However, ordinary people might be frightened, but he had experienced many life and death situations. Therefore, although the commotion was frightening, it was not enough to scare him. "Let's go." Lin Xian strode forward. Xing Tian was surprised because Lin Xian's performance surprised him. Under normal circumstances, even peerless geniuses, saints, and princes would be worried when they saw such a scene. After all, the people in front were all peerless powerhouses. Moreover, they were coming menacingly. However, the young man in front of him was not afraid at all. He walked forward with large strides. He did not dare to delay and quickly followed behind. As Lin Xian walked, countless powerhouses in front of him also looked over. Each of them was like a lamp that pierced through the void. The wind and clouds in the sky changed, and there were even thunderbolts descending. Those people wanted to see what kind of person could take over the position of Immortal Palace's Hall Master. However, when they saw Lin Xian, they all shook their heads and sighed. Their faces were filled with disappointment. That was because he was too young. Previously, they thought that he would be at least a few hundred years old, but now it seemed that it was beyond their expectations. Those people were all peerless powerhouses. They could see the other party's bones and fate at a glance. He was at most in his 20s. Even if such a person had cultivated since he was in his mother's womb, he would only have been in his 20s. How could he be the Hall Master of Immortal Palace? They did not believe it at all. A person in his 20s wanted to lead them? What a joke. That's right. Why would the Hall Master make such a decision? I can't accept it. I can't stand being commanded by a brat in his 20s. Those people discussed animatedly, especially the elders. Their faces were gloomy. Those young geniuses were also displeased. His aura was not strong at all. He was not as strong as them. If he can take over, why can't they? That's right. They could not accept it. Let him try it out. Let him know how powerful they are. The young geniuses were even more dissatisfied. Why could he be the Hall Master but they could not? They decided that they would teach the other party a lesson later. All of you quiet down. At that moment, a cold snort sounded, and then everyone quieted down. That was because the voice was too terrifying. 6 figures walked out from the front. The auras of these 6 people gathered together, forming a world that suppressed the area. 6 protectors. These 6 people were the 6 people that Xia Juyo had specially summoned. At this moment, an old man among the 6 said, "This is the Palace Master's decision. Are you going to go against it?" He didn't dare. An elder shook his head. "How could we dare to go against the Palace Lord's decision? It's just that we're not convinced." "That's right, he's just a young man in his 20s. What ability does this kid have? He dared to control Immortal Palace?" The other person said coldly. "Even if it was an order from the Palace Master, if this brat could not complete the ceremony, he would not be able to become the palace master. As soon as these words were spoken, Bu Shaoran nodded and sneered. Indeed, the position of Immortal Palace Lord wasn't that easy. Lin Xian strode to the front, looked at the countless experts and said in a clear voice, "My name is Lin Xian. I wasn't originally someone from Immortal Palace, but after receiving Old Xia's favor, he had me take over Immortal Palace. From today onwards, I hope that everyone will work together to achieve Immortal Palace's goal." Lin Xian's voice was loud and clear. His aura was stable and it was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. His voice shocked many people because in such a huge scene, the other party didn't panic at all. This was really surprising. However, there were some elders who sneered in disdain. One of them, Elder Lingshu, snorted coldly. "Brat, it's a little too early to say that. It's not too late to say that after you pass the ceremony." That's right. That's right. Many people were discussing. After hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. What? From the other party's words, could it be that there's danger in the ceremony? There's a chance of failure. Brat, do you think the ceremony is so easy to complete? Do you think it's so easy to be the Palace Lord of Immortal Palace? Let me tell you. Even if you're strong and talented, you can't become the Palace Lord if you don't have the life. What does this mean? Lin Xian's frown deepened. Xing Tian's expression also changed as he said in a deep voice. Elder Lingshu, the position of Palace Lord has already been passed on to the young master. We only need to carry out a simple ceremony. Why do you want to use the ancient ceremony from before? There were two types of ceremonies. The first was a simple ceremony, which meant that the position had been given up. The second was when the position wasn't passed on. The ceremony depended on one's strength, talent, and luck. It could be said to be extremely dangerous. They didn't expect that Lin Xian would still get the position of Palace Lord, but these elders still chose the most dangerous ceremony. It was obvious that they didn't want Lin Xian to be the Palace Lord. However, Elder Lingshu snorted coldly. We're just doing things according to the rules. If he can't even pass these 3 stages, what qualifications does he have to be our Palace Lord? What qualifications does he have to lead us? That's right, that's right. The remaining elders and young geniuses were also discussing spiritedly. Xing Tian's expression was gloomy. What? Do you want a rebel? However, at this moment Lin Xian waved his hand to stop them. Then he stood out, glanced around and asked coldly, "If I complete the 3 stages of the ceremony, you'll be willing to acknowledge me as the Palace Lord, right?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned. The entire place was silent. They didn't expect him to ask this question. What did he want to do? Did he really want to try the 3 stages of the ceremony? "Young master, you can't. This ancient ceremony is extremely dangerous." Xing Tian, who was behind him, quickly reminded him. However, Lin Xian shook his head. It didn't matter. It seemed that these elders were very concerned about the 3 stages of the ceremony. He was just worried about how to intimidate these people. If this was a simple ritual and he was just the new palace master arranged by the old palace master, he was afraid that these people would not be obedient in the future. They might even not care about him. If he completed the 3 stages of the ceremony, he might be able to intimidate them completely. At least, he could intimidate most of them. In this way, it would be much more convenient for him to do things in the future. Furthermore, his position as the palace master could be considered to be justified. Therefore, Lin Xian decided to give it a try. "Who do you think you are? How dare you try the 3 stages of the ceremony?" Many elders and geniuses sneered. On the other hand, Lin Xian asked in return, "What? Now that I've dared to do it, you don't dare to let me participate? Are you afraid of something?" These elders turned red with anger. However, at this moment, Elder Lingshu stood out and sneered. "Good boy, you actually dare to participate in the 3 stages of the ceremony? You're too naive. You don't know how dangerous it is." Chapter 2374. All right. If I fail, I'll leave completely and never return to Immortal Palace. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous. "Young master, you can't." Behind him, Xing Tianjiao exclaimed. Lin Xian's words had already been spoken. After hearing it, the surrounding elders and geniuses all laughed out loud. Elder Lingshu even sneered. Because they didn't think that the other party could pass the 3 ancient sacrificial stages. Only the old palace master, Xia Jiuyo, had participated in this kind of sacrificial ceremony. Countless years ago, the previous palace master of Immortal Palace suddenly passed away. There was no new palace master, but the various experts of Immortal Palace fought for it. In the end, they had no choice but to use the 3 sacrificial stages. A total of 5 peerless experts and 3 top geniuses participated together. Those people were all extremely terrifying, far beyond the imagination of these people. However, in the end, only Xia Juyo passed. The others all failed. There were even 2 who were directly killed. And now, this young brat in front of them, an ordinary powerhouse, actually wanted to take this test? Wasn't this purely courting death? However, Lin Xian was fearless. If he couldn't even do this, how could he be the palace master of Immortal Palace? How could he lead this group of experts? Seeing that Lin Xian was determined to pass the 3 stages, Elder Lingshu sneered. Brat, you're courting death. You can't blame us. 6 protectors, please open it. Elder Lingshu said to the 6 figures in front of him. The 6 protectors sighed and discussed with each other. Then their figures flickered and appeared around the altar. One by one they formed seals with their palms, striking out mysterious runes and slapping forward. The black altar bloomed with incomparable light. It shot straight into the sky. Then a black waterfall cascaded down, slowly forming countless steps that led to the sky. The first stage was the Stairway to Heaven. The black Stairway to Heaven had a total of 99 levels. Only by reaching the top could one be considered to have passed. Among the 6 protectors, an old man said in a deep voice. At this moment, all of the elders and young geniuses cast their gazes forward. A hint of seriousness appeared in their eyes. Because just the aura alone was enough to shock them. They reckoned that even peerless experts couldn't reach it. Only an extremely terrifying person like the previous palace master would be able to ascend to the 99th floor. It could be said that the first stage of the 3 stages was incomparably difficult. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. His gaze flickered as he looked ahead. Then he took a step forward and walked towards the black altar. Young master. Xing Tian exclaimed from behind. The dark red divine dragon said from the side. Kid, be careful. This aura is very strange. Lin Xian strode to the ancient altar and stepped onto the black altar. In the next moment he walked up the black stairs. When he stepped onto the first step, a shocking light erupted, and countless black torrents rushed into the sky. A terrifying black ripple spread out. A strong gale swept across, causing their clothes to flutter. However, these people were all experts. Despite the intensity of the storm, no one dared to move. They stood, as their eyes are, Eshant, tease take you. Then he took a step forward and walked forward. With every step he took, he could feel the pressure in front of him getting heavier. The space around him condensed, trying to crush him. With this kid's strength, I dare say that he can only reach the 10th level at most. He won't be able to reach the 10th level. An elder snorted. But soon he opened his mouth in disbelief. That was because Lin Xian had reached the 10th level in an instant. Damn it! How did he do it? Those people couldn't believe it. However, someone still said, just wait and see. The pressure will multiply after the 10th level. It would be the same for every 10th level. With his strength, the 20th level was the highest level. He would probably be seriously injured at the 30th level. If he continued to force his way up, he would probably be immediately eliminated. Lin Xian silently sensed the 99th level of the black stairs. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. In the next moment he didn't move. Instead, he stood on the 10th step and turned his head to look down. Today, I'll let you see if I'm qualified to become the master of Immortal Palace. Don't be so arrogant. We'll talk after you get up there. Those young elites snorted coldly. They were very unhappy that the other party was so arrogant. Those elders' faces were also gloomy, and none of them said anything. Lin Xian ignored them and turned around. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body rumbled, and a dragon's roar sounded. A terrifying dragon shadow rushed out of his body. What is that? Behind him, those elders and prodigies were all stunned. They cried out in surprise. Dragon, it's a dragon. How could there be a dragon in his body? Roar. A loud dragon's roar sounded. The great dragon sword soul fought against the 99th level of the black stairs. Buzz. The great dragon sword soul continued to grow in size, covering the 99th level of the stairs. Lin Xian stepped on the divine dragon and quickly walked forward. The black stairs that looked like the stairs of gods and demons were incomparably sacred in the eyes of everyone. However, Lin Xian walked with ease. When he stepped onto the 99th level and looked down at his surroundings, the elders and prodigies below were all stunned. Their eyes widened and their minds went blank. Damn it, how did he do it? What is that dragon shadow? Damn it. Could that be a secret ultimate move that the old temple master gave him? I don't believe it. How could that kid be so powerful? They were extremely shocked and could not believe it. Some of the prodigies even suspected that the ancient altar had existed for too long and was broken. Indeed, they did not believe it. In an instant, a few prodigies rushed over. They also wanted to give it a try. If they could reach the top, it meant that the 3 stages of the test were indeed broken. Bang, 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 bang. However, when they reached the 10th level, they vomited blood and flew backward. The highest among them reached the 20th level, but most of the bones in his body were broken. Damn it, that was terrifying. When those people came down, their bodies were covered in blood, and their faces were filled with fear. The people around them were also shocked. The 3 prodigies were injured in an instant. It could be imagined that the ancient altar was not broken. However, the other party easily reached the 99th level. Moreover, he was unharmed. They were shocked. Could it be that the other party was destined to become the master of the immortal palace? Those people did not know, but they knew that the young man in front of them was definitely incomparably mysterious. Those elders were also silent. Elder Lingshu's face was dark and he gritted his teeth. Don't be too proud. This is only the first stage. I don't believe that you can pass the 2nd and 3rd stages. The 6 guardians looked at the figure in the clouds, their eyelids twitching. Now, they seemed to understand why the old temple master insisted on passing the position to this young man. The other party's move was simply a miracle. They were completely stunned. The 2nd stage, Zhan Luan Hui. Chapter 2375. The 2nd stage, Zhan Luan Hui. The 6 guardians said coldly as they changed their hand seals again. Instantly, the 99% black staircase disappeared slowly. Lin Xian also came down from the clouds. He was still standing on the black altar. 6 paths of reincarnation. The 6 guardians quickly formed hand seals. The black altar shook and 6 black holes appeared around it. They spun rapidly and emitted a mysterious aura, as if they were connected to 6 worlds. These 6 black holes instantly enveloped Lin Xian. The surrounding elders and prodigies waited patiently. This 2nd stage was very magical. It could make one fall into an illusion and reincarnate 100 times. If one's consciousness wasn't strong enough, they would probably be trapped inside forever. So, the faster one came out, the stronger they were. He set a time limit of 1 incense stick. If the 6 black holes didn't disappear within that time, it meant that he had failed. Just wait and see. This kid will definitely not succeed. That's right. Even such a terrifying figure back then was lost in it. How could this kid succeed? Those elders sneered. Elder Lingshu snorted as well, his lips curling into a cold smile. But the next moment they were stunned once again. Their eyeballs almost popped out. They couldn't help but be shocked. Because the 6 black holes on the black altar in front of them had disappeared. Disappeared without a trace. Damn it. What happened? Why did the 6 black holes disappear? The altar couldn't have been broken, right? Impossible. Could it be that he passed? Heavens. I don't believe it. Who could pass in such a short time? His soul probably hasn't entered yet, right? These people discussed fervently. Even the 6 guardians looked at each other. Because they had never encountered such a strange thing before. To be honest, this was also their first time activating the 3 views of the sacrificial ritual. All the scenes and reactions were performed according to the ancient books. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be wrong. But why did the black vortex disappear? The 6 elders were puzzled. They formed hand seals again and formed 6 black holes enveloping Lin Xian. But not long later, the 6 black holes disappeared again. Lin Xian's figure appeared again. Seeing this scene, these people exclaimed, "Oh no, it must be broken." There was nothing they could do about it. They didn't believe that the other party would be able to break through it in an instant. However, Lin Xian had a helpless look on his face. Because he had indeed succeeded. Of course, he had to thank his Tianji divine eyes. When the 6 black holes opened, Lin Xian felt as if 6 worlds were calling out to him. However, at this moment, his heavenly secret god eyes had also opened. The golden light quickly turned into mysterious runes, resisting the 6 mysterious worlds. It made him retreat in an instant. The faster one exited the 2nd stage, the more powerful one was. Lin Xian exited the dungeon almost instantly. It could be said that he had successfully cleared the dungeon. However, this speed was too fast, so much so that it scared these people. Even these people believed that the ancient altar was broken. Damn it, I don't believe it. A few Zhangs clenched their teeth and stepped onto the black altar, ready to give it a try. When the 6 black holes appeared, The eyes of these elders went blank as they were pulled into 6 different worlds. The rest of the people waited patiently. Lin Xian also retreated to the side with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. After half an hour, the 6 black holes still hadn't disappeared. This shocked everyone. Half an hour was the limit. If the black holes didn't disappear after half an hour, it meant that they had failed. This meant that the black altar wasn't broken. The second stage wasn't broken either. However, what was going on with the other party? The 6 guardians made hand seals and removed the black vortex. Those few elders were still in a daze, and they were quickly carried away by people. The other party had successfully cleared the second stage. Everyone looked at each other, feeling that it was unreal. Elder Lingshu gritted his teeth and said, "No, he had to try again. Otherwise we won't agree." Left with no choice, Lin Xian went up and tried again. However, this time, the 6 of them made hand seals and the 6 black holes didn't appear. Instead, countless runes floated in the air and condensed to form 2 words. Clear. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? Even the ancient black altar had directly cleared the dungeon. This kid was too heaven-defying. They had the urge to vomit blood. The 6 guardian elders' mouths also twitched. It seemed like there was no need to test again. The other party should have passed the second stage. Next up was the final stage, which was also the most important stage. That was the Immortal Commanding Constellation. This stage was extremely difficult. What was tested wasn't strength, soul, or talent, but fate. Fate was something that was extremely ethereal. No one in this world could say for sure. Perhaps even the great emperor couldn't say for sure. However, it truly existed. As for the third test, it was a test of this illusory fate. The black altar quickly condensed, forming a pitch-black immortal throne, emitting an ancient aura. It floated in the air. Lin Xian would sit on it. If he had the life to become the Immortal Palace Lord, he would be safe. If he didn't have the life to become the Immortal Palace Lord, he would be instantly injured. If it was light, he would be seriously injured and sent flying. If it was heavy, he would be directly squeezed by this power and turn into a bloody mist. Could be said that it was extremely dangerous. Back then, among the few experts who fought with Xia Juyo, 2 of them were directly killed. There was no chance at all. That was a genius, but he was killed just like that. One could imagine how dangerous the third stage was. At this moment, even the dark red divine dragon was nervous. Lin Xian also took a deep breath. Elder Lingshu sneered below. "Kid, I'll give you one last chance. Obediently admit defeat. This way you can still save your life. Otherwise you will probably lose your life. Why do you have to give up your life for the Immortal Palace Lord? It's not worth it for you. I advise you to obediently give up." Not only him, but the other elders and young geniuses also advised him. They looked very friendly, but in fact they didn't think that Lin Xian could succeed. Lin Xian took a deep breath and ignored these people. Instead, he turned to look at the pitch-black immortal throne in front of him. The first stage was the Great Dragon Sword Soul, the second stage was the Heavenly Secret Divine Eye, and what was the third stage? There probably wasn't anything that could help him. It seemed like he could only take a gamble on fate. Buzz. Lin Xian took a deep breath and walked forward. Soon he arrived in front of the black immortal throne. Turning around, Lin Xian slowly sat down. At this moment, his heart was in his throat. Needless to say, he was also very nervous. However, he had to do this step. Buzz. Lin Xian sat on the black immortal throne and felt a strange aura enveloping him. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. 5 seconds. Everyone waited for 5 seconds and found that nothing happened. Chapter 2376. This was great. The dark red divine dragon was excited, and Xing Tian was also extremely shocked. He didn't expect that the other party would actually pass all 3 of the dangerous tests. It seemed like the old palace master's decision was indeed wise and heroic. Could it be that this youth was destined to become Immortal Palace's master? Below, those elders and heavenly prides were also completely stunned. None of them dared to believe it. Damn it. He sat on it. He actually sat on it. He actually sat on it peacefully. No. This was impossible. I'm dreaming. They screamed crazily. It was because they really didn't believe that someone who had never joined Immortal Palace would actually become Immortal Palace's master the first time he came here. What kind of joke was this? How could they endure this? The 6 great protectors also looked at each other in dismay, their eyelids twitching wildly. Then, they looked at each other and all of them bowed forward. Greetings to the palace master. Greetings to the palace master. 6 people bowed. This scene really stunned the surrounding people. When Xing Tian saw this, he also quickly called out to greet the palace master. When the others saw this, they were extremely shocked. They gritted their teeth, unwilling to accept this. However, at this moment, a cold voice sounded. What could it be that you want to rebel against Immortal Palace? These elders' bodies trembled. Although the other party was only a young man, although the other party's strength was inferior to theirs. However, the old palace master personally gave up his position. Moreover, the other party had indeed passed the 3 tests. Logically speaking, he should be Immortal Palace's master. Therefore, although they were unwilling at this moment, they still had to follow the rules. One elder after another, heavenly prides all respectfully called out to greet the palace master. Damn it! Elder Lingshu was so angry that he gnashed his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. He could only cup his fists. Extremely unwillingly, he called out to greet the palace master. Seeing everyone greet him, Lin Xian sat on the black immortal throne, having a grand ambition that could devour mountains and rivers. He waved his palm and said in a clear voice, "Elders, you are too courteous. There is no need to be polite. I have just arrived. Although I have inherited the position of palace master, there are still many things that I do not understand. Immortal Palace's matters will be handled the same as before. You don't have to worry." Lin Xian said this naturally to make these people feel at ease. After all, these elders and heavenly prides had opposed him before. No, if he didn't promise these people something, they would probably feel uneasy. This would instead affect Immortal Palace. Since Lin Xian had already become the master of Immortal Palace, everything he did had to be done in consideration of Immortal Palace. Thank you, Palace Master. The elders and geniuses below also understood. When they heard Lin Xian's words, they heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the other party did not hold it against him. Otherwise, they would have a hard time in the future. Alright, there's no need to be so polite. Lin Xian said. 6 great protectors, what's next? The 6 protectors replied. Reporting to the Palace Lord, the banquet is coming up next. Palace Lord, please come this way. Lin Xian nodded. He stood up from the black immortal throne and walked forward. There was a magnificent palace in front of them. Everyone walked towards the palace. After everyone had disappeared, an old figure appeared in the empty palace. It was Xia Jiuyo. He looked into the distance, his eyes flickering. Sure enough, this brat was destined to become Immortal Palace's lord. Who would have thought that other than the great dragon sword soul, he would also have the heavenly secret divine eyes? This was the will of the heavens. With a flash, Xia Jiuyo disappeared again. No one knew what had happened. On the other side, the banquet was going on in the huge palace. It took a long time for everyone to disperse. Looking at the back of everyone, Lin Xian came out of the palace. He had his hands behind his back, his eyes flickering. No one knew what he was thinking. Xing Tian. Lin Xian shouted coldly. Young master, you're looking for me? Xing Tian appeared. Bring me the information of Immortal Palace, including the information of the members, our sphere of influence, and the various rules of Immortal Palace. Give it all to me. Yes. Xing Tian had already prepared it. He took out a storage ring and the young master was inside. Lin Xian took the storage ring and nodded slightly. Alright, go and rest. I'll call you if there's anything. Yes. Xing Tian left. Lin Xian also returned to his room. Then his soul entered the storage ring, took out a pile of jade scrolls and quickly read them. When he understood the general information, he was extremely shocked. He had to admit that Immortal Palace's strength was too terrifying. Although they didn't have a vast territory like before. However, they were scattered all over the central state. They had people in all 9 empires. In fact, each of the 9 empires had a hall. There were peerless experts there to suppress and organize all kinds of missions. It could be said that those people all held real power and had countless experts under them. They were very powerful. Previously, Xia Jiuyo was unparalleled and could intimidate these experts. However, Lin Xian didn't know if he could intimidate them now. Lin Xian rubbed his head and exhaled. Although these people were unconvinced, they wouldn't rebel. After all, Xia Jiuyo only gave up his position and didn't die. Even if these people didn't fear him, they would fear Xia Jiuyo. Lin Xian didn't plan to touch these old guys. After all, these people were peerless experts and there were even invincible kings. At present, they were too far away for him. Lin Xian planned to start with the young people. He couldn't order these old people at all. He had to establish his own foundation. Then the best goal was to recruit new people. It wasn't possible to recruit from outside. Therefore, Lin Xian could only set his eyes on these young people in Immortal Palace. Although these young people were also young geniuses and were unruly, compared to those older generation figures, they were still easier to deal with. At least Lin Xian was confident. In the same price, he wouldn't fear anyone. A night passed. The next morning, Lin Xian woke up from his cultivation. He first drank a mouthful of spirit tea, then stood up and walked outside. After washing up, Lin Xian went outside. Immortal Palace was such a huge organization, so they definitely wouldn't be too idle. After all, although they were powerful with many people, however, they also needed a lot of resources. Moreover, these people wouldn't wander around if they had nothing to do. They would rather cultivate than waste time. Young master, you're up. Xing Tian was still waiting outside. Lin Xian nodded and said, give me an order. Give me an order. Have all of Immortal Palace's younger generation, unless there are special circumstances, within the remaining 3 days, all of them are to arrive. The young generation. Hearing this, Xing Tian frowned. It seemed that the young master was going to take action. He said, I'll go give the order now. However, he didn't leave. Instead, he said, young master, other than me, the 6 great protectors are also trustworthy. The 6 great protectors? I got it. If there are difficulties, I'll ask them for help. Lin Xian nodded. Xing Tian strode away to pass on the order. Lin Xian sighed. Chapter 2377. Lin Xian sighed. On the side, the dark red divine dragon said, Kid, what are you sighing for? You're the master of Immortal Palace. You can do whatever you want when you go out in the future. It's not that simple. Although you're the palace master, you have too few people under you. Don't talk about doing whatever you want, you can't even send a message now. Lin Xian shook his head. Indeed, there was only Xing Tian under him now. There was no one else. Xing Tian was sent by Xia Jiuyo to protect his safety. But now he became an errand boy. There was no choice. Lin Xian had no one else, so he had to quickly gather the younger generation. He had to quickly establish his own foundation of power. Although Xing Tian said that the 6 great protectors would do their best to help him, the 6 great protectors had their own missions after all. Moreover, although using the 6 great protectors could suppress for a while, it wasn't a long-term solution. Lin Xian's order was quickly passed down. Those young geniuses who hadn't left stopped their journey. Those who had already left also hurried back. There was no choice. Although they were unwilling, this was the new palace master's first order after all. They weren't willing to violate it. These people hurried back one after another. In the 9 great imperial dynasties, those young warriors in the halls also moved when they received this news. What new palace master? He was just a brat. What was he doing? Those hall masters were very disdainful and didn't care. They also ignored it. Among them, a few young men also sneered. Let me see what this palace master looks like. I want to see what qualifications he has to lead us. 3 days later. When Lin Xian came out of the main hall and looked at the square in front of him, he was also extremely shocked. Because there were countless figures standing in front of him. These were all young warriors of Immortal Palace. They had talent and strength. More importantly, they had Immortal Palace behind them. They had powerful resources and countless cultivation methods and abilities. It could be said that their future achievements were limitless. At the front, when the young martial practitioners saw Lin Xian come out, their eyes lit up as they looked over carefully. After all, this was the new palace master. Many young geniuses had seen Lin Xian before, but there were also many who hadn't. These people had all rushed over from other places. When they saw Lin Xian, who seemed to be even younger than them, they were all shocked. He couldn't even believe it. Too young. Although they knew that the other party was a young man, they did not expect him to be so young. Could such a person really lead them? They didn't know and were extremely doubtful. However, rules still had to be followed. Thus, at this moment, everyone shouted in unison, paying their respects to the palace master. Lin Xian nodded his head slightly. Regardless of whether these people were sincere or not, the current scene had truly shocked him. My name is Lin Xian, Immortal Palace's new palace master. I believe some of you have already met me. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen me before. From now on you will know me. As for how I became the palace master, you can ask your friends. I think they won't forget what happened that day. Upon hearing this, many young sky prides rolled their eyes. However, the other party was right. They would probably never forget the scene of that day for the rest of their lives. At this moment, Lin Xian said in a clear voice again. This time, I've gathered you here to select a group of elites from you and focus on nurturing them. Select the elites and focus on nurturing them. Hearing this, these people were in an uproar. To be honest, they didn't expect it either. Previously, they only thought that the new palace master wanted to meet them. And they also wanted to meet the so-called new palace master. Perhaps they didn't expect that the other party would actually choose the elites among them. How would they choose? Would they compete? Many people were excited. After all, if they were chosen, they would definitely receive more resources. However, some people sneered disdainfully. Among them, a few people had contempt in their eyes. They were originally curious about what kind of person the new palace master was, but now that they saw him, they were extremely disappointed. As for the selection, they didn't need it. Of course, those who made these disdainful sounds were the elites of the 9 great halls. They were originally valued by the halls. In fact, some of the sons of the halls were here. They could tell at a glance what Lin Xian wanted to do. He definitely wanted to rope them in and establish his own faction. They were not interested in such a thing. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes flickered as he looked down. He was looking at everyone's expression. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Now let's begin the selection. There are a total of 2 stages. Do your best to break through. After Lin Xian finished speaking, he waved his hand. Immediately, the great dragon sword soul flew out and descended from the sky, forming a stairway with 99 steps. At the same time, Lin Xian formed a seal with his palms. His heavenly secret divine eyes quickly rotated and emitted mysterious runes, forming a golden vortex. What? This is... When the young elites saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. Why does it look similar to the 3 stages of the sacrificial ceremony? 99 steps, 6 paths of reincarnation. Although there was only one golden vortex, the terrifying aura it emitted was extremely terrifying. That move shocked everyone. That's the new palace master? Judging from his aura, he's not very strong, but I didn't expect him to be so clever. The 9 people at the entrance of the great hall also snorted lightly, then sneered disdainfully. What's so special about that? He must have used some secret technique after becoming the palace master. If I become the palace master, I'll definitely be stronger than him. Ruffian Dragon, I'll leave the selection to you. Xing Tian, invite the sons of the 9 great halls over. They don't need to be selected. Don't worry, kid. The dark red divine dragon said with a smile. Xing Tian also walked forward and invited the 9 palace masters over. Lin Xian turned around and entered the great hall to wait. Indeed, the 9 palace masters did not need to be selected because their identities were not ordinary. If nothing went wrong, they would be the future palace masters. They were different from the others. Lin Xian wanted to meet the 9 palace masters alone. However, only 7 of the 9 palace masters came because the other 2 palace masters had special missions and did not come at all. So be it. Lin Xian did not care about the 7 palace masters. Among the 7 palace masters, some were tall and some were short, but all of them had a look of arrogance and confidence on their faces. Lin Xian had seen that expression on the faces of countless peerless geniuses before. Therefore he did not care about it. When the 7 palace masters saw Lin Xian, they did not pay any attention to any special etiquette. Instead, they looked at him unscrupulously. A few of them even had a trace of provocation in their eyes. Among them, a handsome young man looked at Lin Xian and sneered. Is this the new palace master you chose? I think he's not even as good as me. Why don't you let me be the palace master? I promise I'll make the immortal palace shine. Chapter 2378. Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Xing Tian, who was at the side, shouted angrily. Yang Jian, what do you mean? Are you thinking of rebelling? Alright, don't scare me. Xing Tian, do you really think he can be the hall master? He's just a young kid who isn't as strong as us. Who can submit to him? This is a joke. I don't have time to play with you guys here. As he said that, Yang Jian snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves and turned to leave. The other 6 people sneered. They wanted to see what the new hall master would do. He was slapped in the face as soon as he entered. He's probably mad. However, the 6 of them were soon stunned. They realized that he was still smiling and didn't look angry at all. What's going on? Could it be that he's not angry at all? Pretentious? He must be pretentious. He must be furious, but he didn't show it on his face. The few of them thought. Someone else snorted coldly. So he's just a fool. Sure enough, after that, 2 more people sneered. Since there's nothing else, we'll take our leave. As they said that, the 2 of them left. Now there were only 4 people left. 1 pound. Xing Tian's face was gloomy. Lin Xian on the other hand looked at the four of them. Then he asked, why? Aren't the four of you leaving? Hee, we don't want to leave yet. A young man said with a smile. He sat down on a chair and crossed his legs. His expression was very relaxed. The other three also sat down. Don't want to leave? All right then. Lin Xian waved his hand and a cup of spirit tea appeared in his hand. Then he flicked his finger and 4 teacups instantly appeared on the table of the four of them. Phew. Lin Xian raised the glass teacup and poured himself a cup. Then he poured it into the air. The strange thing was that the tea seemed to be affected by magic in the air and instantly surged into the teacups of the four of them. Not a single drop leaked out. Lin Xian placed the teapot on the table and picked up the cup. Try it. This is a spirit tea that I specially made. It's very delicious. As he said that, he took a sip. The young man who had his legs crossed took the lead and took a sip. The other three took a sip and then put down their teacups. I'm a very easy person to get along with. Since we've drunk tea, we're friends. It was just that Kai didn't know how to address number 4. Hui Chen, the son of the 5th Hall Master. Chen Haoyu, the son of the 7th Hall Master. Lu Jia, the son of the 8th Hall Master. Du Xingwei, the son of the 4th Hall Master. Su Chen silently remembered their names and then said, tomorrow I'll invite everyone to go hunting. He hoped that all 4 of them would come. Since the 3 of them have left, I hope that the 4 of you will inform the others. Although they left today, I don't blame them. He hoped that they would come tomorrow as well. After saying this, Lin Xian stood up and left. At the side, Xing Tian followed behind. After they came out, Xing Tian took a deep breath. The first to leave was the 3rd Hall Master's son, Yang Jian. The 2 who walked behind him were the sons of Hall Master 6 and Hall Master 9. One was called Pei Yuan and the other was called Xiao Hui. The 3 of them were in cahoots. Among them, the 3rd Hall Master was very domineering. He was usually very arrogant. Now that the old Hall Master had abdicated and the young Master had just ascended to the throne, he would probably not take you seriously. 3rd Hall Master. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Then he came to the square again and looked into the distance. At this moment, those people were conducting the test in the square. After watching for a while, Lin Xian went back. There was no need for him to stay here. He just needed to let the dark red divine dragon report the results when the time came. As expected, when night fell, the dark red divine dragon came in. This kid took in a total of 500 people. Among them, more than 30 of them probably came with a purpose. They should be the spies of the various halls. As expected, they still made a move. Lin Xian frowned. Then he asked, are the remaining people reliable? They were all reliable. They didn't have much of a relationship with the halls. Most of them were suppressed and couldn't survive in the first place. At this moment, we're providing him with an opportunity, so these people rushed over. That's good. Lin Xian nodded. Then he said, don't touch those spies. Just alienate them so that they can't come into contact with our core members. That was easy. The dark red divine dragon said. Then Lin Xian said, pick out the 200 strongest elites from the remaining 400 people. Carry out special training. As for the remaining 100 or so, let them train hard. Every month they would undergo a challenge. Those who could defeat 200 elite members would directly enter the elite group. Good idea. I'll do it right away. The dark red divine dragon smiled. Lin Xian said again, oh right, find me a few smart ones from these people. I'm really short on manpower. Alright, wait for me. The dark red divine dragon left quickly. Actually, it was very troublesome for him to pick people. However, Lin Xian's 6 paths of reincarnation allowed him to see through all these people's experiences and characters. Therefore, he knew what these people were like and whether they were spies or not. Xing Tian, help me lead those 200 elite groups. You must give them the strictest training. Yes, young master. Xing Tian nodded. Not long after, the dark red divine dragon returned. This time he brought back 5 people. These 5 people followed behind the dark red divine dragon. They were very excited and nervous. They came in front of Lin Xian and respectfully called out, greetings, Hall Master. What are your names? Lin Xian asked. Zhang Chao, Xing Yan, Wang Bin, Lu Kai, Sun Xiao. Well, you guys can follow me for the time being. Yes. Young master. The 5 of them were excited. Lin Xian said, Ruffian Dragon, give them some instructions. Come with me. The dark red divine dragon waved his dragon claws excitedly. 1 pound. Xing Tian frowned slightly. Young master, although these people are very talented and loyal, they're still very weak. However, compared to the top geniuses he was still a little lacking. Lin Xian nodded. Compared to the sons of the 9 hall masters, they were indeed a bit weaker. As for those who had strength and talent, they had long been divided up by the 9 great halls. The remaining ones were usually suppressed. Lin Xian turned around and looked at Xing Tian. You know Immortal Palace well. Don't tell me that there aren't some people who come and go independently and are not restricted by any hall masters? Young master, there really are people like that. There are quite a few of them. However, they are very difficult to subdue. Previously they only listened to the old hall master. The 9 hall masters couldn't order them around. They even tried to recruit them more than once, but they were all mercilessly rejected. There really are people like that. Give me a few of the younger generation. Xing Tian thought for a moment and said, Young master, why don't I give them an order and ask them to hurry back? Are they outside now? Lin Xian asked. These people don't have any missions. They're probably cultivating. Alright, there's no need to ask them to come over. I'll look for them personally. Soon Lin Xian left. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.